So good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. I would like to welcome all of my speakers and my guests and my participants for today lectures. The fourth day of the International Symposium of JSPS about COVID-19 and Sustainable Development Goals, role of science and health challenges. I would like to welcome my first speaker, my dear friend also. I honored to have you, dear Dr. Felix. Dr. Felix is Associate Professor at Central University of Punjab, India. He had his PhD from Fuji Japan Mixed Fellow. He is former NSF Fellow at Friday Harbor Lab, Washington, USA. He is also Fellow at Marine Biological Association and Fellow at ZMT Bremen, Germany. Expedition scientist at Indian Antarctic Mission and elected National Core Committee representative for Indian National Young Academy of Science, science rider, a white cyclist, and advocate of low carbon footprint lifestyle. Welcome, my dear. And I will stop my screen to share your screen. So please. Dear Felix, can you unmute yourself? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Dr. Walaa Saad, for inviting me, and also I'm really happy to be with you, spending time with JSPS as well as Japanese embassy supporting this event. I'm really privileged to be with all of you, especially Fukami Naoko-sama. Arigato gozaimashita. I'm really happy to be all with you. So, 私も5年間日本におったので、少し日本語も話せますよ。久しぶりに話せますので、本当に嬉しいです。So, with this introduction, allow me to share my screen. So it's a very brief presentation. So, I would also like to get some of your questions at the end of my presentation. I hope my screen is visible. Walaa, could you please confirm?
Yes, my dear, I see it.
All right. So the talk is titled, We Already Have a Vaccine Against the Future COVID-19s. It's called UN SDGs, the Sustainable Developmental Goals. So exactly that is the topic of your entire week-long webinar series. I'm really happy to be part of this great initiative by my good friend, Dr. Walaa Saad, and also the Japanese embassy and JSPS for supporting this great event. It's really important topic which I'm going to cover. So by the way, I'm also a YouTuber. I have a channel. You can search my name, Felix Bast, and I have a weekly science show called Curiosity. So CE means curiosity. The episode number 10 is the latest, which I haven't released yet. So this is going to be a sneak preview of my upcoming episode. So probably I'll be releasing tomorrow or day after. So each episode I feature 10 interesting papers from the last week from the sciences. So this is one of the paper which has been released last week in the prestigious journal Nature Microbiology. And the title of this paper is Evolutionary Origins of SARS-CoV-2, SARS-virus lineage responsible for COVID-19 pandemic. It's by the Chinese, US, and UK team. And the summary of this paper is that the lineage, that means the family that gave rise to the virus, has been circulating in bats for decades and likely include other viruses with the ability to infect human beings. So this is a third and even fourth a major paper that actually confirms that the origin of virus is in the forests of the China. It is not really a synthetic virus that it's a fake news is spreading everywhere, isn't it? So this is a quote from the paper. Divergence dates between SARS-CoV-2 and bat SARS-virus reservoir were estimated as 1948 with 95% highest posterior density. SPD is basically to do with the Bayesian probabilistic reasoning. So it's 95% confidence interval. It's to be 1948. So it is actually evolving. The virus is evolving and has been circulating unnoticed in bats for decades. And is this the first such paper? No, friends. If you look back, this is a paper published in another prestigious journal, Nature Medicine, way back in 2015. And this is by a team from different places, different big institutes. The first author is Vineet Manacheri. He is an Indian origin scientist working in US, and the paper is the SARS-like cluster of circulating bat coronaviruses shows potential for human emergence. So this is a very interesting paper that actually says that it is basically there is a potential. So if you look even back, this is in 2007 paper in another prestigious journal, Clinical Microbiology Reviews, by an international team. And conclude that this is abstract of that paper. And if you look at the conclusion, let me read out. The presence of a large reservoir of SARS-CoV-2 like viruses in horseshoe bats, together with the culture of eating exotic mammals in southern China, is a time bomb. Look, the paper said it's a time bomb way back in 2007. The possibility of re-emergence of SARS and other novel the viruses from animals lab. Therefore, the need for preparedness should not be ignored. So we have to be prepared. So we failed to listen to the scientists. So that is really what has happened. Way back in the last week in Curiosity, the 9th episode, I covered this news as well. And the quote from that story is, on average, 2 new viruses in a year had spilled from the wildlife host into the human over the last century. So if you look back 100 years, each year, 2 new viruses has been spilled from the biodiversity. What does that mean? Spilled. So that means spillover even means the first wild to human transmission has happened. So it's really, really important. And of course, this is my science program in my channel, Curiosity. Please have a look. Every week I actually discuss 10 interesting papers published just the prior week. So these are our latest papers. I also conducted a survey here in India, to see the public perception of the fake news, especially the COVID-19 related fake stories. So 54%, staggering 54% believed that, that the coronavirus is a lab made. It's made in Chinese genetical engineering work. There's a recombinant virus. Look at that. And the fake news, it's a busted. We have already busted. I'm also proudly member of Indian scientists response to COVID-19. Indiscovid, a very well-known organization. We do a lot of work on myth busting. And I have also covered in one of my past episode of the Curiosity channel, my YouTube channel, that how to fight the fake news with cognitive immunization. So exposing deliberately for low doses of the fake news, and playing fake news and real news games will help you. And this kind of fake news is nothing new. Even HIV, when the HIV virus in 1980s were discovered in France and the US, many people thought that this is lab made by white people to decimate the Black Americans. And if you look even back during the bubonic plague episode, in the prevailing fake news that has been spreaded in the Europe, is that these are actually, purposefully, deliberately, the wells are poisoned by Jews. And because of that, there is a huge anti-Semitic drive throughout the European, Central European nations. So you can check out my interesting documentary, a well-received documentary. It's just 24 minutes long in my channel. That I have covered it already. Now, is coronavirus something really special? Nothing special. It's the same thing. If you look at different kind of emerging diseases and re-emerging diseases, like SARS is from bats, Marburg is from bats, Ebola is from bats, Nipah is from bats, AIDS is from the primates, especially chimpanzee, MERS is from camel, avian influenza or H5N1 is from the birds, H1N1, the swine flu, it is from the swine, that is pigs. Lyme disease is from the deer or rodents. Zika is from the exotic mosquitoes, and dengue is also from exotic mosquitoes. So everything is coming from the wildlife. Yes, indiscriminate exploitation of the biodiversity is a root cause of all of our troubles, friends. So, if you look at the news these days, entire news is completely flooded with COVID-19, but still there are some exceptions. This is one news from the Brazil, that the deforestation of the Amazonian has soared under the cover of coronavirus, because the media has not other time to report this kind of stories. So it's completely coronavirus. So in the disguise of the coronavirus, so they are actually cutting down the trees. The deforestation in the Brazil has skyrocketed. Thousands of hectares. One news says that 100 football stadium worth is being felled down each single day. It's a huge crisis, friends. It's absolutely a huge crisis. And now look at that, the Brazilian rainforest. It is actually a source of a number of medicine, including this medicine. Do you know what is this? This is basically the cinchona bark, the quinine, HCQ, hydrochloroquine. So this is actually from the cinchona of the Brazilian rainforest. The first line earlier, it used to be the first line defense for the COVID-19 as well. And of course, this is a very well-known drug for malaria, anti-malaria drug, the quinine. So this is also coming from the Amazonian forest, and still we tend to overlook all these things. And now here in India
Excuse
as
me,
well, we have
Felix?
yes.
The mic is not worked.
Come again?
Excuse me, perhaps the mic is not worked something. How about
Mic?
Yes.
The mic, okay.
I don't know.
You cannot hear me properly.
Only the
Yes, Tammy, I hear Dr. Felix clearly. So maybe some problem in unstable net at you. You can try again. But I hear it. I hear him.
really?
Any problem
Sorry.
with another?
Okay.
Excuse me. Any
Yeah,
problem with
probably.
any another attendance? Any problem with hearing Dr. Felix? Can I know,
Is it
please?
clear, Felix?
Clear.
All right,
Yes.
all right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, dear Professor
Perfect. So I will
Fukami, you
continue.
can connect or reconnect again. Maybe
Yeah.
unstable net.
Yes. Now for
Thank
some, you can try some alternate computer or a different microphone.
Yes.
All right. So
I
we
am
also
sorry.
have yeah. So I was talking about the Amazonian rainforest, the deforestation, and here in India also we do have a forest. This we call the so-called Amazon of the East, and this is called Dehing Patkai Wildlife Sanctuary in Assam, and Assam's only rainforest. And now the mining has been approved. The entire rainforest will be devastated for mining. So this kind of decisions, look at that, the forest is pristine forest with lots of exotic species and species diversity, and now coming to the entire the forest is now going to be fell down for a mine. It's not even a clean energy source. So all these policy decisions, well, we guys we are mortals, we really don't have any control over the government decisions. But these policies, be it in Brazil or here in India, these kind of policies, we really have to change it. This is the only option for us. We have to exercise our choices very clearly. And apparently these two countries are on the top of the world. Yeah, and of course the US is number one for the COVID-19, and US is also doing exactly the same thing. For example, the Paris Accord, they have unilaterally withdrawn from the Paris Accord, and yes, so the carbon footprint, no one cares, and mostly those countries who don't care it really suffer in the COVID-19 a lot. Now, the deforestation and encroachment to the ecosystem is really prominent nowadays, and this leads to the increased contact of the humans and our livestock with the wildlife. That exactly is the spillover is. So likelihood of spillover events become very high because of the deforestation and encroachment. So wilderness serves as a reservoir of pathogens, and large number of studies have shown that the wilderness has a reservoir of the pathogens. So if you do this deforestation and encroachment to the pristine wildlife ecosystem, the stored wildlife, the viruses and other pathogens get released. This is what is happening. It's something like snakes or hornets. Unless you poke on the hornet, or unless you actually irritate the snake will never bite you. There is it's incorrect to say that the snake will come to your home and to bite you. There is no revenge for the snakes. So it's exactly like the venom of the snakes and hornets, like the reservoir of the exotic zoonotic diseases. Zoonosis or zoonotic diseases are diseases transmitted by the animals, you know. So it's exactly the same thing. Venom, they release a venom if you poke on it. So the nature also has got coronavirus and other emerging viruses and other pathogens get released when you actually, cross your limits on the deforestation and other exploitation of the wildlife. So infectious organisms stored deep inside our wilderness is nature's defense weaponry. You see, nature also has got a defense weaponry, just like the Ministry of Defense of all of our countries. The nature also has it. She would release it as a new pathogens if we cross the limit. I'm calling the nature as a lady, a she. Yes, she is going to release this new pathogens if we cross the limit. So it is exactly, it's a different dictionary, friends. Pathogens are in a state of undiluted equilibrium in a complex, stable, undisturbed ecosystem. A lot of studies on these lines have happened over the decades. This is a very old concept. In the textbook, you can see that the concept is known as portfolio effect of ecology and environmental sciences. The portfolio effect is just like mutual fund portfolio of your personal finance. So if you have a mutual fund which is not well balanced, for example, everything is equity shares, then during the calamities, something like COVID-19 situation, your entire wealth will be extremely affected, isn't it? So it's always better to have a mutual fund portfolio which is well balanced. Equity funds, debt fund, gilt, everything. Well balanced portfolio is always good. It's the same thing in the nature as well. It's a well balanced in the sense that the species richness of biodiversity, extreme diversified ecosystem is always better because it gives a resilience. The nature can spring back if we actually do something wrong with that nature. So that well balanced portfolio and the portfolio effect on the nature is really, really important. Well, this is nothing new. It's a very old concept, the portfolio effect. So just like hornets sting when you poke on it, nature to fight back when disturbed. So when the threshold of the biodiversity loss is crossed, reserved pathogens get released, and then we call it as new pathogens. These are really not new pathogens. So novel coronavirus, do you think it's a novel new one? No. That is what the latest paper, the first slide which I shown you today, the Nature Microbiology last week, the paper says that it's in 1948. The viral family has already originated and started circulating in the bats, the forest bats. So it is not novel, but it gets released, and after releasing, we call it as novel pathogens. That is what the weaponry is all about. So what are actually the reasons, or explicit or direct reasons for the emergent diseases? We can identify certain explicit reasons, including exotic bush meat trade. This is really a big problem in China. The bush meat is, and also in Africa. These two continents, in the countries rather, or Africa as a continent, bush meat is really a big trouble. May not be in Egypt, I'm not really sure, but elsewhere in Africa, especially in the southern part of Africa, the bush meat trade is, for example, pangolin in China is a pretty serious issue. That is actually the direct cause of the spillover events. Rare species trade. This is also something to do with our human beings mentality. For example, if you want to adopt a dog, you will be looking for a Chihuahua or a golden retriever or a German Shepherd. All those exotic dog breeds from abroad. You don't really care, the next block, a dog loitering around in the streets of Cairo. The stray dog, it's normal. Nobody likes the stray dogs, isn't it? We like the imported ones. This is actually the problem. And there is nothing special about the German retriever or a shepherd. Those fancy name, or the cats, Russian blue. Of course, the picture looks so beautiful. I love cats a lot. And does it mean that I have to get the Russian blue only? or the Siamese cats only. So it's nothing like that. Even the stray cats and stray dogs really need our love, isn't it? So that is actually a digression of the discussion. And now coming back to the point, there is a lot of market for the rare species. As species became really rare, then the price is also quite high. These are just a human cognitive bias, friends. It's just like wine. So as the wine gets really rare, people can pay, thousands of US dollar for a bottle of wine. But there are a lot of blind tests that says that these extremely rare wine and a normal good shelf, wine, it's all same. Nobody, even wine connoisseurs cannot differentiate the taste, of the really rare wine or the just normal shelf wine. So this is a cognitive bias, really prominent in human society. And wildlife trade, all these are explicit reason. Another important reason is alternative medicine. Not many people are talking about alternative medicines at all, because trading endangered species is very common in alternative medicine. For example, Kida jedi of the Himalayas. It's actually a symbiotic organism, an admix of caterpillar and the fungus, and this organism is now extremely vulnerable because of the exploitation. Or monkey oil or snake oil or shilaji, these are all fake products, and they actually claim that these are aphrodisiac, the sexual stimulant, or miracle panacea. Panacea means cure for all. If you eat or drink the snake oil, whatever disease you have, like cancer or AIDS or even COVID-19, will go away miraculously. All these are nonsense. There is no science in it. It's zero evidence in it, but still people buy it. And these trade and our inordinate fantasy and fancy with this kind of rare species is one of the main reason or explicit reason for emergent diseases. So, well, this is a direct reason. Now, how about indirect? You might think, well, I don't eat this exotic bushmeat, and I also don't trade in a rare species, and I also don't go with alternative medicine. So, well, I'm not responsible for this spillover event, right? No, friends, that's not. We have a lot of implicit reasons for emergent diseases. For example, our lifestyle choices. Should you lead a consumeristic lifestyle or a zero waste policy? I'm a big advocate of zero waste, or at least minimizing the waste. Zero waste doesn't mean a completely zero waste. At least the organic waste, you can compost it, right? I have started composting. I also have a kitchen garden, and even my nail and, my hair, I compost it. And in Japan also, of course, I have seen that the shibui, the concept of shibui, or all these Japanese philosophy are amazing, really, for minimizing the waste. For example, motai nai. Motai nai is also a very famous Japanese concept. Don't waste, right? We have limited number of days on the planet Earth. Why should you actually waste your resources? Why do you want to squander it? Right? So, or exotic food versus local food. I'm a big advocate of the local food, the seasonal food. Why you want to import it? For example, here in India, rich people always eat Californian apples, or the red wine from the California, or the Australian apple, or prunes from California. Especially they eat a lot of prunes. So come on, all these exotic food, how much carbon is being burned in shipping, international shipping? Think of it. Think of our future of the world, or branded packaged water versus refilled water bottle. I just refill my water. There's no problem at all. Instead of getting this kind of packaged water, well, these are brands quite common in India. Or even in Japan, when I was in Japan, the packaged water is actually bottled in French Alps. From France, all the way it's coming to the Japan just for the sake of drinking water. Come on, that is, I call it as foolishness. Whatever the taste be a bit of difference, so it is absolutely foolish. You're squandering the resources for buying a packaged water from France. Maybe you will get it in Egyptian supermarket also. The French packaged water of Swiss brands, really wrong. Or even the drinks, Blue Label, for example. People have this kind of fancy. I told you with the pet also, pet animals also. So whatever imported is always better. So that mentality, we have to stop it. or Johnny Walker, or even the whiskey, bourbon whiskey, from the US. So you think of the how much is the fossil fuel being burned, and what is the carbon footprint, and what is actually the implications on the biodiversity. All these are implicit reasons, indirect reasons for it. Or even commuting by car or cycle. Look, I'm a university professor here in India. In the university, my own students are coming in four-wheel drive, a big car, self-driven, only one person drive. My students are coming, while I go each and every single day in my cycle. I simply bike and go. I feel happy. And more than that, much more than that, cycling is good for your own health. Multiple studies have shown that you get better sleep. I sleep very good, and also it's good for coronary heart diseases, and it's a zero emission cycle. Is zero emission, friends. A lot of good benefit. I can deliberate it on hours and hours, but I don't really have any time. Now, coming to COVID-19, what is the good news? Yes, we have several good news. It has led to decreased pollution levels. It's a lot of studies have shown that around almost 40% less, and people travel less, especially international travel, and international trade and shipping also have drastically reduced. So that has led to less carbon footprint and lesser species introduction. Alien species, introduced species are also coming down drastically. Even silence, global. I've covered many of these topics in Curiosity. Please have a look. So even the world is now undergoing a major silence because of the COVID-19. And because of that, the seismologists are very happy. They can even feel very minute tremors happening elsewhere in the world, just like Antarctica, friends. So our dependence on the fossil fuel has dramatically come down to a level that the oil prices have gone negative in international market. That has released a few weeks back, the crude oil prices have gone negative. So impact on the lockdown on our lives is very straightforward. We buy less, so that automatically lead to we waste less. We actually adhere a zero carbon or carbon neutral lifestyle. We buy less exotic food and buy more local food or things. And we are becoming more self-sufficient and self-sustainable lifestyle. And these are the hallmarks of the low carbon footprint lifestyle: self-sustainable and self-sufficient. Shop less and just use whatever you have it. So in one sense, the nature is teaching the humanity how to lead a life in harmony with her. So nature being a great teacher. That is what is actually this COVID-19 episode have taught us. At least that is what my perception of this COVID-19 is all about. The nature, the big guru, or the teacher is teaching us how to live in harmony with her, how to bring back that lost holistic balance, the equilibrium between biodiversity and human being. So this is what as actually earlier it was like this, and then because of the continued exploitation, it has become like that. And from this, how to go back to this state. So this is the how to bring back that holistic equilibrium. That is what the nature is teaching us. Here in India, we have a lot of ancient verses like elsewhere in Egypt also. I'm sure you have it. By the way, I'm a big fan of Egypt and Kemetic culture. My own name. I changed my name because of the Egyptian culture. Bast or Bastet is the goddess of cats. I love cats a lot, and I changed my name Felix Bast. Felix itself is a cat name. Felix, a cat, And also science. In science, scientific name of cat is Felis domesticus, though it is Felis. Felix. In India, we have one of the ancient Sanskrit words from Purana is like this: Chintaniya hi vibada madameva pradikriya na kuba khananam yuktam pradipte vahinana grihe. So this is in Sanskrit. It means that it's better to think of a remedy before the problem arises. It's of no use to cry when the house is set on fire. So prevention is better than cure. That is a Latin proverb, or via negative approach of the Western philosophy. For example, a smoker would always say, well, I like smoking. And an alcoholic will say, well, I love drinks a lot. And no problem. In case I get develop some problems later on, for example, a lung cancer or liver cirrhosis, I have health insurance. Is that the right way? No, it's much better to to remove the vices from our life, stop smoking and stop drinking. That will actually save a lot of life. So that is exactly what you call the karma in Indian philosophy. The karma is all about the retribution. Our actions are responsible for the consequence. I don't want to elaborate on karma on all different attributes of human life. Well, I'm not a religious man, but still, in this of the biodiversity exploitation that we human being have been doing all over the world. COVID-19, like any other emerging zoonotic diseases, is the nature's retribution. So, in India, I was born in a small state called Kerala, down south. And in Kerala, this is a picture from my village. It's actually a sacred grove. So this is a conserved forest, a reserved forest because of their religion. It's a religious significance. Because our ancestors were saying that if you cut a tree, then what is going to happen is a snake is going to attack you and kill your family member. So this is a symbolism. Basically, that symbolism has been on for hundreds of years in Kerala. And because of that, we have these pristine patches of forest still remaining. Nobody will touch it. So that is a beauty, friends. I love this concept a lot. This is the sacred groves of Kerala, is amazing places. These are like really a rare species. You can find it there, and nobody is allowed to cut a single tree from it. And we need these kind of reserved forest more and more. And I would say, and I would argue right here, share with you all, that this is the vaccine that we need today for fighting the next COVID-19 epidemic. So our best vaccine against next COVID-19 is sarpakavu. We call it a sarpakavu, the snake temple. So there is no structure, no temple. It's something like I have fond memories of various Shinto shrines in Japan, where I went to. For example, Ise Jingu. Ise Jingu is an amazing place. A rich forest, and and the structure is also so much close to the nature. I love that shrine a lot. It's exactly like our Sarpakau. So we need that kind of forest much more than we need big structures. That is what we needed. So let us prevent biodiversity loss, just like our ancestors have been doing, and let's prioritize saving our forests and oceans through sustainable development. So let us build more Sarpakau rather than mines and bullet trains. These are nothing but Vanity Fair. It serves no purpose, friends. This kind of statues or whatever, the mindless development. I'm not an anti-development person, but still we have to actually preserve the biodiversity a lot. And for that, I think that Japan is doing a fantastic work. It's exactly like Finland is also doing. The Scandinavian country of Finland is one of the well-forested country. The Brazil has been on for many years, but now because of the policy change of the current administration, they're actually nose diving. They're simply spoiling entire forest. Yeah. So let us also bring the SDGs to our lifestyle. So if I say about SDG, the Sustainable Developmental Goals, I can spend hours teaching what is this SDG all about. So this is nothing but mere rhetoric, a philosophical armchair preaching. I hate it. So we have to actually bring the SDGs to our lifestyle. For that, one of the famous quote which I love a lot is by Stoic philosopher who lived 2000 years back, ancient Rome, Seneca. Seneca said, "Be the user, but not the slave of the gifts of fortune." Be the user, not the slave of the gifts of fortune. So whatever gift that we have, we take it for granted, these are nothing but gifts. And be a user to it. Don't be a slave, and don't prioritize those things. And think of today's children. They are the posterity of the world. Another quote of the Seneca is that if you live in harmony with nature, you will never be poor. But if you live according to what others think, you will never be rich. I read once again. If you live in harmony with nature, you will never be poor. So see, poor and rich is nothing to do with economics, or your wealth. Living in harmony with nature is what exactly he defined that being a poor or rich is. And if you live according to what others think, that exactly is the concept, the cognitive bias called groupthink or herd behavior. Today's psychologists speak of it. That is what the Seneca meant 2,000 years back. Look at that profound wisdom. I love the works of Seneca, and I strongly recommend everybody just have a look. Seneca as well as Marcus Aurelius meditation. These are gems, I tell you, real gems. Thanks a lot for listening to my brief talk today. And if you have any question, you're welcome.
Thank you, dear Felix. So interesting lecture. And I see one raised hand from Dr. Divya. So please, Dr. Divya, can you ask your question? Unmute yourself and talk, please. Hello?
I think she's not there. Any other questions? You can also use the Zoom chat box in case if you have any doubt.
Yes, and I put a Google document for the everyday lecture and answer and questions for speakers, so you can share Google document by writing your question, and the speaker will answer all questions. It's okay. Thank you so much, dear Felix.
Excuse me. Can I have?
Yeah.
Can I question?
Yes,
thanks
go ahead.
to Felix, and your thinking, your opinion is very nice. But how do you think about the development and future? We are on the way of time, so that how to say, the corona is one challenge for us. I agree your plans about nature or something, but how we think about development and future, please.
Yeah, so as I was telling, the coronavirus is a great teacher, and it actually we have to change our policies, the future course. I think that tremendously we have to change it in light of the COVID-19, and we have to redefine our priorities. It is mindlessly squandering the nature's resources is not the answer, and we are almost crossing the tipping point of a hot Earth. So the climate change is an alarming, but not many people actually discuss on the climate change, and the climate change never enters the global politics, any of the national politics in the world except a few countries in Scandinavia. Even in Japan, people don't even care who who argues in terms of climate change and who don't, because people are not even aware what the climate change is all about. And even there are a lot of skeptics of the climate change. Many people believe that the climate change doesn't happen. So these things we really have to change it. So the COVID-19 is an eye opener, I can say that. And our future course of actions all depends on how we actually look at that. And what is the cost of climate change? If you ask me, allow me to answer your question with a slide which I didn't show you, and let me show you that slide. Yeah, this is the paper which I discussed in the 9th episode of the Curiosity, that is in the channel, the science show. It's a paper from, again, 2 weeks from now. It's published in Science, a very famous American journal, 24th of July, 2020. So, Ecology and Economics of Pandemic Prevention. This is the title of the paper. It's by the Princeton University in the US team. And this is a paper from the experts of environment, medicine, economics, and conservation. It's very interesting. And experts from different teams, they actually teamed up. And what is the cost of preventing next pandemic? So that is what the paper looked at it. And they said that it's just 2% of the COVID-19 economic damage. So whatever the economic damage COVID-19 has done, we need just 2% of it. So 2 new viruses a year had spilled from their wildlife host into human over the last century. That is what the researchers said. With a growing destruction of the nature, meaning the risk of today is higher than ever in the history of humankind. And there was a clear link between deforestation and the virus emergence, they said. And the forest bats are likely reservoir of the Ebola, SARS, and COVID-19 viruses, and tropical forest edges as major launch pad for new viruses infecting the human beings. So if you look at this graph very carefully, this pink square is 11.5 trillion US dollar. It's a humongous amount. This is what we have actually already spent the damage for the COVID-19 all around the world. Now, how much money we need to prevent the next COVID-19? That is basically the climate change. The entire climate change, we just need a small square. You see the small square? This much is we needed. This square is basically 26.6 billion US dollar. It's a nothing if you compare with this area. This is only 2% of this area. And if you expand this small square, this is the red square, you can see a big amount goes to end the wild meat trade in China. It's a bush meat, that is a big problem. And another one is monitoring the wildlife trade. Another would be reducing the disease spillover via the livestock. Another one would be reducing the tropical deforestation by 40% by the most critical regions, and finally reducing the disease spillover from wildlife, including banning the alternative medicine. All these things are really important, and I hope this answers your question.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, you are right. And this is the reason why some diseases linked by the season and different season. Some diseases linked by winter, some diseases linked by summer and spring, because of our nature and our surrounding
Come
environment.
again?
Yes, you hear me? So,
Yeah, I can hear you. Come
okay.
again? Yeah, asking some question. Okay.
Okay, so thank you so much, dear Dr. Felix. And again, there is a Google document in the chat room. You can write in it and share it for speakers to ask and answer. So we have a 5-minute break, then we'll present the next talk. Thank you, my dear Felix. And it's
Thank you
our
so
honor
much.
to be with us today. And I'm very happy to know that you are like Egyptian ancients. And
Yeah, I love Egyptian
interested
culture.
here.
Chemeticism is amazing, and I just want to add one point that binds Egypt with Japanese, because I haven't been to Egypt, but I lived in Japan for quite some time. One interesting link between Egypt and Japan is the writing script. The kanji script is something like Egyptian hieroglyphs. That is and only these two languages I could see. Of course, Chinese also, the Chinese is a big brother of the Japan. The kanji script and Egyptian hieroglyph. Is there any other scripts in the whole world that is pictorial? I suspect nothing. That is actually that binding. That's amazing. The concept is really good. Yeah, and I look forward to visit Cairo and the pyramids of Giza and Sphinx and Alexandria, the great library. At least
Let's
I think
see.
it's non-existent now. I would like to visit your country. Yes.
So you are welcome to Cairo and welcome to Egypt. And
Thank you
I
so
hope
much.
you visit us soon after this
Yeah.
lockdown over. So
Yeah.
you are also almost welcome at any time. Thank you, dear Professor.
Thank
And
you. And arigato gozaimashita, Naoko-sama. Thank you so much for inviting me here. Thanks. Have a great day.
thank you. So we have 5-minute break, and I will share my screen for the next speaker. So the next talk will be for me, and I will not present myself, is my biography. I am a physician and researcher at National Research Center, Cairo, Egypt. I graduated from Faculty of Medicine, Cairo University, and my master degree in pediatric medicine, and my PhD from Ain Shams University, postgraduate childhood study faculty. My PhD about child health and nutrition, and I work at NRC from 2004 till present. I am so proud to be JSPS Hope Fellow. I attended the 9th Hope meeting 2017, and also I am Indian Council, Medical Council Research, African Union Scientific Technical Research Commission International Health Practitioner and Research Capacity Building Scheme Fellow, India, Chennai 2019. So I will stop screen, share my screen, and share my presentation now. So I will today talk about important topic. Excuse me. About COVID-19 and adolescent obesity. So why obesity and why adolescents? And what do you expect to hear now? I will show some definitions about COVID-19 and obesity adolescents, and how COVID-19 kill us, or what help COVID-19 disease to kill us. What is a visceral obesity? What's the mechanism of action of obesity and as a risk factor for COVID-19 infection? What are my previous work in this area? And case report of 14 years old young adolescent. COVID-19 and heart disease, why COVID-19 hit the heart after lung infection. Is it still there is a hope? You are what you eat. So let's start. In 2019, all globe are hit by very unique virus, and I know this virus infection was many species or similar species hit before our globe, but by this mortality rate or by infectious rate, highly infectious rate is unique, and what's called new COVID SARS-2 infection. So what helps COVID-19 kill us? There is many risk factors initiate or accelerate COVID-19 to help COVID-19 to present with severe symptoms. By the way, I will not give a very complicated health lectures. I will be simplified as much I can. So I will pass any medical or any technical slides, but I will simplify it. So we know many chronic diseases underlying condition like diabetes, obesity, kidney. And if we see this chart, we'll find obesity come after diabetes as a risk factor for COVID-19 to accelerate mortality and admission. This study done in Louisiana's Department of Health and Hospital 2020. So COVID-19, like I told before, it infects many parts of our systems, respiratory system, circulatory system, digestive, systemic, and excretory, and have many symptoms and signs. What's new about cough, sneezing, runny nose, shortness of breath, difficulty in breathing, sore throat, pneumonia, and circulatory symptoms like in complete blood picture, decreased white blood cells, and the most query digestive diarrhea, and sure fever and fatigue. So the next important system hit by COVID-19 is heart as a part of circulatory system. So what is obesity? Obesity in adults differ from definition in adolescents. Obesity in adults defined as a body mass index more than 30 kilogram per meter square. When we divide your body weight by height in meters square, this is your body mass index. If it's this number more than 30 kilogram per meter per square, you are obese, and is one of the strongest modifiable risk factor for cardiometabolic disease. And for our good luck, it's a modifiable. You can stop it and can reverse this risk factor. So what about adolescents? Is the same? No. At first, why I focus today about adolescents or adolescence period? Because adolescence period is often considered as the highest time of life, time of life. This is the most period of life in human life to have very healthy lifetime. In most countries, adolescence is a point of lowest mortality across life course. And in COVID-19, infection at the beginning, we find adolescents have or had lowest mortality rate or lowest infectious rate, sitting between spike of early life as a child and as later adulthood with chronic disease. But sadly, 80% of adolescents with obesity will continue to have this condition as an adult. So obesity will continue from childhood to adolescence, then to adulthood, if this risk not converted to healthy weight. So what is adolescence? Adolescence refers to period making transition from childhood to adulthood, and by WHO, the age between 10 and 19 years. And roughly correspond to time from pubertal onset, from time of hormonal change in child, to reach this to reach his adulthood period. In Egypt, more than 18 is an adult. So from below 18 years is child. So obesity increase COVID-19 risk is a fact, and many papers, recent papers confirmed that obesity disease is a very important risk factor for COVID-19. So obese child or a healthy child is a vicious circle of any child start to become obese. Uh, as we in this pandemic crisis, and all sports club lock, and schools lock, and going out is very dangerous to get infected from COVID infection. So all this sector of society stay home, in front of video games, in front of TV, in front of smartphones, eat high-fat food, no study, no exercise, no sport at all. So we will become mild obese child. And if you keep this bad habit to your child, will become moderately obese, and very obese and will become at last obese adults. The circle and closed circle. If your child didn't get out from it as soon as possible, will be closed circle. So obese adolescent, how can I diagnose my child, or how can I diagnose my patient as obese adolescent? In childhood period and adolescent differ from adult. We use percentile curves. So body mass index in this period of life more than or equal 95th percentile for specific age and sex will become or we diagnosed as obese adolescent. Obesity during adolescence is very critical, and sadly it's associated with number of short and long-term illness, including hypertension, type 2 diabetes, hyperlipidemia, even obstructive sleep apnea, and most probably psychological and social stress, and the severe outcome is cardiovascular disease. This is a chart for body mass index of adults, and as we see, we calculate body mass index, and in numbers, if less than 18.5 underweight is the normal, is overweight, then obese above 30 or above. In adolescent or in childhood, it differ. It's a slide is percentile curve. So 10 years old child, for example, if he is underweight, if he is percentile healthy, if his number is in percentile become here, it will be overweight. In this area is above 95th percentile, or on 95th percentile will be obese. So COVID-19 concerning rise in number and in this activity of this disease since 2019 has been recently reported globally, and the starting data indicates that new COVID-19 cases are increasing among younger and obese adults. So young adult and younger age not protected, as mentioned before, as childhood period and adolescent is severely protected from get infected or have more immune system. No, obese adolescent or obese young adult has a very high risk for COVID-19 infection, because obesity or and lipid increased lipid profile and the fat cell disturb the immunity, and we will show in the next slides. So this paper confirmed that obesity not only a dependent risk factor for COVID-19 complication in young adults, but also they point out ectopic and visceral fat, a new marker for this risk. So what is visceral fat, and what's the difference between you have visceral fat, increasing in visceral fat, and general obesity, or being obese? So obesity is associated with chronic and low-grade inflammation. All of us know if chronic inflammatory process all over a long time that promote hyperinflammation, like what occur in COVID-19 process, infection of hypercytokines, so it will hit your immunity. So adipose tissue also may be a source of reservoir for virus spreading and increase shedding. Obesity represents a relevant pathogenic mechanism or an inflammatory cascade of SARS-CoV-2 immune response. The slide show how obesity and how the process make you or promote autoimmune diseases or auto-destruction, auto-inflammatory, and increase risk for COVID-19 infection. Adipose tissue will promote adipokine, increase inflammation by increasing apoptosis inhibitory macrophage. So also will end the product by increasing inflammatory interleukins and cytokines. So also fatty food will disturb the important microflora and microorganisms live in our intestines. That's why COVID-19 when hit and when give symptom of diarrhea in many sectors, especially in children and adolescents, because microbiome will be alterated in with obesity. So it's an increased risk factor plus COVID-2 SARS virus will alter disease microbiome and microbiota, and all this cascade into increase inflammatory cytokines, inflammatory interleukins, and increase antibody production and promote autoimmune destruction. So this is past paper, we published it at 2018 before COVID-19 pandemic, but we discuss in Egyptian adolescent women, young women aged from 12 to 15 years, and how their infection by adenovirus 36 infection in early childhood, and what is infect to obesity, and how they get infected and get symptomatic cardiovascular cascade and cardiovascular diseases. And even we find in this young age, by 15 years old, some of these young adolescent female have atherosclerosis. And all of us know that atherosclerosis increase in elderly in old age, but interesting, we find nearly large number of our participants in this study have increased in carotid edema media thickness of carotid artery, and this is a marker of early onset atherosclerosis. So these obese children and adolescents have this increased risk. So that's why COVID-19, now we all of us hear about sudden death in young adults, and by early age, and I hear about some YouTuber in Egypt died by early age 25 years when infected by COVID-19, post probably COVID-19, and they get sudden death within a week by this thrombus, and died from increased risk. Despite he is, when I see his picture, I didn't see he's obese in general obesity, but maybe the cause of predisposing factor. So I mentioned before term visceral obesity or visceral fat. Is it differ from general obesity or subcutaneous fat? Yes, sure. Visceral fat is very important and is a cardiovascular marker, metabolic marker to increase the risk of future cardiovascular disease. Is a bad fat reservoir for in our body, is the fat around the inside organ, but subcutaneous fat is not a problem, not initiated any problem, only disturb the, the appearance, but the most dangerous part is the visceral fat, and that's what we studied in this human. So you are what you eat. You may look, this is ugly picture. If you eat a very unhealthy food, you are what you eat. This is reflected to your health and our adolescents' health. Remember this picture because I will give you another more nice picture about you are what you eat later on. So this characteristic and anthropometric radiological biochemistry of mentioned study before of girls with visceral obesity, increased visceral fat, like in the previous photo, and girls compared by girls with no visceral fat, يعني maybe normal in weight, but has visceral fat obesity. So we can see all laboratory investigation and waist circumference, hip circumference, body mass index has significant value. This is our published book about this study. So you are only as old as your endothelium. So you can have 24 or 25 or 20 years old, but you look like more older than this age if your endothelium damaged by thrombus or by early signs of atherosclerosis like we see. So you are only as old as your endothelium will be appeared. Remember this picture and be healthy. So this is a case report from Northern Italy.
بص لا احطهم كلهم في الفريزر عشان ترى نجيب بيت جديده شركه جديده.
Please, may I ask to mute your phone, microphone? Thank you. So this is a case report of Northern Italy, a boy age 14 years old and was previously healthy, fully immunized, presented with fever, vomiting, watery diarrhea. It's a very characteristic symptoms of COVID-19 infection for 7 days, but had no respiratory symptom. It's okay. No family member had symptoms. So he's very healthy, and all his family member is healthy also. On clinical examination, was pale, dehydrated, blood pressure is low, pulse rate is high, is cardiovascular manifestation, and oxygen saturation was nearly slight to normal, but still low, and his temperature is high. But the most important thing, he was obese. Body mass index was 34 kilogram per meter per square by onset of his entry to emergency room. And by nasopharyngeal swab for SARS-CoV-2 was positive. Patient progressed with further myocardial damage, renal failure, increased inflammatory markers, and was admitted to pediatric intensive care units by this very early age, by 14 years old. Patient with obesity and cardiovascular, patient with obesity and COVID-19, even in young patients, require attractive and attentive care because their risk of complication. So, as I mentioned before, with increased onset of early onset of atherosclerosis and COVID-19 hit and get damage to respiratory as well as cardiovascular, especially the heart. So we hear about new onset arrhythmias. What does it mean by arrhythmias? And I will simplify as I can this medical term. When we get viral infection, trigger what is called hyperinflammatory state and fatal hypercytokinemia. Like hyperinflammatory state, like in obesity, so it's two double risk factors. And sadly, it is arrhythmogenic potential. What's arrhythmia? Simply, it's fasting your heartbeat, and maybe too fast or maybe too slow. So if it's too fast, above 100 beat per minute in adult, and also in children, maybe above 120, it's called tachycardia or arrhythmia. Is it fatal? Yes, it's a very fatal condition. Arrhythmia may be cause sudden death. This is ECG. It will be look like this ventricular arrhythmia. So COVID-19 and obesity affect the heart very badly. And the first symptom, and maybe the last symptom, young adult may complain sudden and severe chest pain. And after chest pain, we may admitted to emergency room, and within 48 hours, maybe 3 days, he may die. So it's very, very important to take care about COVID-19 infection and heart. Patient with overweight and obesity admitted in medical ward for severe acute respiratory syndrome, COVID-2 related pneumonia, and by the younger age required more frequently assisted ventilation and access to intensive or semi-intensive care unit, ICU. Is there still hope? I think yes, is still hope. This is our hope. You are what you eat. If you remember my previous slide, bad ugly slides, bad color and not organized at all, you are what you eat. I think all of us will prefer these slides. Many colorful, many healthy variety of food we can, and by the way, it's very cheap, and in Mediterranean countries is available. In India, it's available. In Japan, it's available. In in Brazil, fruits and vegetables, and is the most healthy and very cheap in many countries all over the world. So if we choose very healthy dishes every day, drink a lot of water, herbs, spices, and daily exercise, eat more than 3 to 4 serving fruits, vegetables per day, eat whole grains, away from flours and salt and sugar, decrease your fat choices, avoid butter, margarines, and choose oil, olive oil and nuts. So we have hope. Don't forget protein, because protein is very important, especially fish and red meat. This is our delicious and my special Japanese food. When I go to Japan, I prefer to eat all this. It's healthy, and we can see many variety. And also in India, I think in Indian food very near to our to Japan and Egypt. They like rice as we like rice. It's the main important source of calcium and carbohydrate, and also many variety of vegetable. And sure, in Egyptian food. And this slide show our Egyptian ancient civilization was a very important thing to collect the vegetables. They knew how healthy the vegetable and fruits, how it's important to take fish as a routine, daily routine to serve in many diets. So if we return to our traditional ancient in all over our countries, it will be work. So thank you, and I hope I wasn't very long presentation. And my thank you with a variety of vegetable, fruits, lemon, vitamin C, and thank you. So I will welcome any questions. Yes, I welcome any questions.
Yes, Dr. Walaa.
Yes.
Hi, Dr. Walaa.
Yes, I hear you, Dr.
Like I said, it's yeah, very nice presentation and excellent. And I'm curious about related to some question about the food. So it is literature is saying the food habit also help to prevent from the COVID. This food habit, especially South Asian people, like what a lot of media and exposure people saying, like if you food pattern of the Indian and South Indian kind of South Asian food culture, then we'll more better than immune power in other countries. This is true. Yeah, like just
yes, completely
like
true. Yeah. You know, dear professor, also about the quality and quantity. It's important to have many qualities in a small quantity. I have a slide to serve 3 or more fruits, vegetable per day. I know in India you care about a lot of spices, and by the way, spices very important to boost our immunity. Many spices is very important, so it's true. Yes.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Walaa.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Hayam, yes.
Yeah, Dr. Walaa.
Excuse me. Okay. So Dr. Hayam and Dr. Felix. Yes. Yes, please, Dr. Hayam.
Thank you, Dr. Walaa, for your presentation. Very informative and a very important topic. With the rising incidence and prevalence of obesity all over the world and in younger age groups, particularly adolescents and children. We know that vitamin D deficiency is associated with higher risk of viral infections and higher risk of severe infections, and also associated with poor glycemic control in diabetic adolescents and children. Would you recommend supplementation of vitamin D during this period? Because we know that there is less outdoor activities and less exercise and less sunshine, and less exposure to sunshine from the lockdown. Would you advise supplementing these children with vitamin D doses?
Yes, thank you, Doctor. Yes, it's very important. Vitamin D and vitamin C, even we have it in our food. It's very important from early age to make it routine supplementation to all child, not only in COVID crisis. When we some child come with his parent to my clinic or to hospital, and I wonder 2 years or 3 years old, no vitamin D, no calcium in if he has significant deficiency in calcium, and his mother said he drink milk. No, it's not work or drinking only milk, but in this crisis and in this no outdoor and no more amount of omega-3s and fish, and so it's very important to supplement not only vitamin D but vitamin C. It's very important, and be in nature. Not necessary to have drug from medicine. No, you can eat healthy and eat in large amounts, and if this is unsuitable or not applicable to many people, you can supplement by vitamin D, by vitamin E, and also in zinc. Zinc in present is in many kind of food, in nuts, and in peanuts, is important, in egg, in tuna, so it's very important. Thank you so much, Dr. M, for mentioning this importance of vitamin D, because it's very important also to eliminate obesity, and it's very important in the inflammatory process of obesity. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Walaa.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you, dear doctor. So, Dr. Felix, you want to have a question?
I was just making a
And
comment
then
that
Dr.
your
Sofi will have his question.
yeah.
Yes, yes, please.
So your presentation is amazing. Thanks a lot, Walaa. It's a great presentation about different kinds of food and why the diet matters for the obesity is a big crisis. An amazing presentation. My comment is about again about the cognitive bias. Many people tend to equate the fast food culture with a burger or a chips, especially the Western food. Here in India, there has been a prohibition in Kerala, for example, a special taxation for the fast food. So if you ask me, what are these fast food as per the government of Kerala, down south is the state, and they define the fast food as anything Western. That mindset is wrong. Burger or pizza or pasta or spaghetti, all these are the fast food. While the local food here in India, we don't call it as a fast food, but for example, biryani or samosa, so
Yes,
these are
sure.
well added with calories and extremely dangerous food, but still people don't actually call it as a fast food and no thing. So this is actually common everywhere. For example, having lived in Japan, Japanese okonomiyaki, for example, mouth watering, but okonomiyaki is also full of fat. Or even Egyptian food, I learned that fateh or shawarma, Lebanese actually fateh, full of fat, and we really don't call it as a fast food. So, I think this has something to do with the mindset and even the cognitive bias to simply, implicitly assume that whatever the Western fast food is the only thing, and let us actually wipe our hands clean, that our, indigenous foods are not fast. So is there any comment from that part?
Yes, you
So
are.
could I say something, Dr. Walaa,
Yes, you are
regarding to
completely.
Dr. Felix?
Yes, please.
Uh, uh, yeah, I agree with Dr. Felix, but Dr. Felix, because you're saying like samosa and biryani, but again, asked the question regarding Indian spices and masala. That's Dr. Walaa comment. So problem is that the basic difference between the other fast food and our like in Indian, like we call the street food, like samosa and biryani. So maybe the preparation of the way and like what masala we use, this is safer than other fast food, like maybe like other fast food, like what we call the other fast food in compared to European and American fast food.
Very
So
good.
that's a good
Yes,
way. Yeah, I
yes,
think good way to how we prepare like pakoda and samosa is better than to other.
it's
Is I
true.
know this is harmful, but is not more harmful compared to like American or European fast food, because they mostly use the boiled things and boiled items. We use the
But
more spices in compared.
Rakesh,
Yeah.
yeah, Rakesh, thanks a lot for the comment, but I totally disagree with your point. Especially if you
Okay,
look at
that's it.
the coronary artery disease, the prevalence is
Yeah.
a lot higher in India compared with America. These are American fast food, which you're saying, the burger. The Americans don't actually die that much. The coronary heart disease is extremely high down south in Kerala. Actually, you will be surprised to see even this one, the coronary heart disease plus diabetes. Both of these are the
But
epicenter of all India is actually Kerala. I'm from Kerala actually.
but doctor, maybe some other factor also could influence, like the more pollution, we are not more polluted things compared to other country, we are also more populated. So it could be other comorbidity to influence on is cat disease. This could be happen.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, I will give one talk, and then Dr. Sohi will give his question. I am agree with you, Dr. Felix and the Dr. Rekich. I said about before, not about quality and quantity, because as Dr. Felix say, maybe our dishes in holidays or in celebrations maybe contain more fat, like fata, like sambusa, like unsaturated fatty acid. I am agree with you, Dr. Felix. And also agree with Dr. Rakic in point that if you eat homemade food will be less dangerous than outside food, because outside will use unsaturated fatty acid sources from untrusted sources and maybe so harmed. Okay, in homemade food okay, we can use the same amount, but not in large amount, and not in from untrusted source, not infected. The all advantage of homemade food, but the issue is quantity. You can eat, or you can serve for your child or your adolescent a cup or a small plate of fries every day. And that's very important. You can see in Japan, for example, why obesity in Japan not is a very dangerous rate. And this Professor Kami can support this. In Japan, they eat regularly rice and regularly sweet from rice origin. But when I visited Japan many times, I didn't see obesity in young age like in Egypt or like in other countries, for example, in India or in any other developed country. So I believe that it's a part of multifactorial genetics or something like that. So I will take a last question from Dr. Sobhi to save our time, because for the next speech. So Dr. Sobhi, please.
Thank you, Dr. Walaa, for good and informative lecture. My question, why COVID-19 attack virus or hit respiratory system for the first time, and the second time attack the heart?
Okay.
Or circulatory system.
Okay. So at first, COVID-19, when it presented in November 2019, all what symptoms we noticed all over the world, it was fever and respiratory, because it's a respiratory virus.
Yes.
The mode of entry from this virus is the nose and mouth and eye. So and we hear about viral load and how amount of virus enter our body. So the first part is lung, to be infected from
Yes.
virus. And virus attack ACE receptors in the lung and in the cell membrane of lung. And interestingly, GIT also has the same receptors to join with us, attract the virus to attack it. So the second symptoms was respiratory, GIT symptoms, diarrhea, abdominal pain, and it's mistaken by many differential diagnosis of another disease like gastroenteritis, for example. So when a child come to your clinic with a high fever and diarrhea, will not be diagnosed as a respiratory viral infection. So then recently we find more and more infection and symptoms about cardiovascular heart arrhythmias. Recently we hear about many young adolescent and young adult die sudden deaths after several days with GIT symptoms such as abdominal pain or chest pain. No fever, no, this young adult or adolescent is completely healthy, no infection, no family member infected, but within days he or she died. So it's very important to focus on this and focus on obesity as a risk factor and a very fatal risk factor for COVID-19 in this era now. Thank you, Dr. Sobhi, and I will stop receiving questions to save the next lecture for Dr. Seno. So please, I will introduce him and share my screen. Dr. Seno, you are with us now. My dear professor. So I will share my screen till Dr. Seno will be available. Okay. Hello, dear.
Hello.
Hi, I hear you. How are you, my dear professor? It's my pleasure to have you live now, because we are scheduled to record your video, but I am happy to be with us today.
Okay, thank you very much.
I will introduce Dr. Seno. Sorry. So you can prepare your slide while I open your biography, please.
Okay. Do you see my presentation file?
Yes, I see it. Yes, it's clear. So you wanted to start now? I just have 1 minute to present your biography, if you don't mind.
Okay, please.
Okay. So please, you can stop your sharing your slide to can share my slides. Dear professor.
Okay. Shall I start? Okay.
Okay, if you wanted to start now, but I appreciate to welcome you and share your biography for all attendants to know you more and more. So stop screening, stop sharing 1 minute.
Okay.
Our next speaker is Dr. Professor Masaharu Seno, my dearest professor of Nano-Biotechnology, Dean Graduate of School of Interdisciplinary Science and Engineering in Health Systems, Okayama University, award of many awards about for cancer research from Okayama University Foundation for Science and Technology, award for fourth Business Competition Japan Osaka Chambers of Commerce and Industry 2004, award from Venture Business Startup from Academic Space Center of Cooperation between Industries and Government and Academy 2005, award of Minister Education, Culture, Sports, Science, Technology 2005, and award of Excellent Achievement in the Research Faculty of Engineering, Okayama University. So thank you so much to be with us today, and please share your screen, dear professor.
Okay. I think this one.
So you can share it now.
All right.
Yes,
Thank you very much for your kind introduction. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm not really an expert on a viral study, but I'm not sure why I was invited to this symposium. But I'm introducing my idea and thoughts, what I'm thinking about the COVID-19 right now, although I'm not an expert. So, sorry, what is going on? Today, I'd like to think about vaccine and immunity. Vaccine, how you can obtain, and as for the immunity, how you can acquire together with you. So that this is not my general opinion, but I'm just my thoughts, so that we have many discussions later. This is the structure of virus, coronavirus, and diameter is 100 to 200 nanometer. And there are so many particle surface proteins, typically a spike protein and hemagglutinin esterase and matrix protein and envelope protein. And these are forming the appearance of the electron microscopic character of image of the viruses. Okay, probably this nanoparticle surface protein will be the good vaccine to be established. But they say that coronavirus is so easy to mutate it, so that how you can prepare the vaccine, it is a very big problem, I thought. And I checked the nucleotide sequence in the database and found that 15,000 accession numbers they got, independent sequence, amazing. And also the genome coding the several proteins, so that the protein sequence is reaching to this 1,060,000. So that there should be many different amino acid sequences because of these heterogeneities. And but there are two different sequence genome, only two. So I checked with the genome structure, and this is the restriction enzyme map, and also coding sequences. S protein, spike protein is this, and around 4,000 bases coding 12,000 amino acids consisting of 140 kilodalton protein. Okay. Actually, as I told you, the several proteins will be the candidate for vaccine, but I'm focusing on the spike protein right now. And amino acid, the entry of the database shows the amino acid of spike protein here. Okay. So now, nowadays we can assess the amino acid sequence similarity between the entries in the database using Bast. Probably many people know this bioinformatics software available on the internet. And blast it to the database, and there I have got 100 results. Almost all the accession entries gave the 100% of identity. It's amazing, independent sequences there are, but spike proteins so conserved. So there's no difference. Only in the last two gave the 99.97% of identity. It's amazing. So that this means that even the viral genome is so mutating, spike protein is not so similar one another. So I analyzed the hydropathic index of the S spike protein. And this is the graph of hydropathy plot. Top is a hydrophilic, and the bottom is hydrophobic. So the amino terminal sequences provides a secretory signal, and the carboxy terminal provides a transmembrane domain, so that the hydrophilic, the domain outside of the nanoparticle, viral particle, shows the character of the hydropathy. And the hydrophilic regions more than 0 in this graph shows the immunogenicity of this protein. So probably these parts, you can pick up several parts of the immunogenicity and synthesize the peptides for the development of the vaccine. Probably there will be a general vaccination will be obtained, even the viral particles are different. Actually, actually, this is the vaccination of the idea of the viral particles, and many cases are detected by PCR nowadays, so that I'm picking up with the PCR primers. Not so many people are displaying these sequences, so that I have checked what kind of sequences are used. Very easy, 2 sets of N1 and N2 PCR primers were adopted for the PCR test. Also, these primer sets are available in Japan, commercially available. And interestingly, there is comments. The recipient agrees to use them in compliance with all applicable laws and regulations. But CDC cannot provide any warranty regarding their accuracy. This is a character of PCR, so that we don't know if even if the PCR positive person has really infected with the coronavirus accurately, I mean precisely. But we have no ways, we have to rely on the results right now. Depending on these results, the WHO dashboard displays the map of the world. Actually, as generally speaking, Russia, United States, and Brazil, India, Iran, South Africa, and Spain, and UK is the highest number of has the highest number of the infected people, probably PCR positive people, I must say. And nowadays, 19 million people are positive by PCR during the period of the coronavirus pandemic. And death is 722,000. But we can find that the PCR positive number is increasing nowadays, but death numbers are somewhat stable. Somewhat, this is a contradictory results, I think. And we can see the situation by regions. Actually, it seems the America is increasing countries, and this is the American, including the US and Brazil, Mexico, right? And Europe has increased, but now getting steady. And looking into the independent countries, US is the top right now, and Brazil is following. But it is interesting to see that Brazil has anti-lockdown policy. So the infected people are so many, but death rate is not so much different from the United States. Their cumulative total, even in the last day. And actually, sorry. India has also big numbers of the infected people, but amazingly, the death rate is very low. And I will talk about India later. And Sweden is also the anti-lockdown policy country. So there has been many infected PCR positive people. But nowadays, amazingly, no people dying and no people infecting. So probably anti-lock policy seems successful. Actually, we can find the news. This is what was that? Newsweek, yeah, article. This was the middle of June article. Sweden was so fear about the number of the positive people. So they were worrying about, they were failing to protect the coronavirus by herd immunity. But 1 month later, the same newspaper wrote the new infections in Sweden were full lockdown measures were not implemented have mostly declined since late June. So now the Sweden has the very successful results right now, it seems. On the other hand, Brazil and US has still worrying about the increasing number. Actually, probably lockdown and anti-lockdown countries, including very seriously regulating the system of the city, people of the, how to say, they regulated the systems in the city so that the European seems very successful to regulate the number of the infected people. On the other hand, US is so worrying about the increasing. So I don't know what is the reason why the US people are worrying about this situation. But still, many states are worrying about the infections of the coronavirus today. And back to the WHO dashboard, we can find difference between these regions. Actually, in America region and the European region has the abrupt response increase in the initial stages. On the other hand, the other regions, Southeast Asia, Eastern Mediterranean, and Africa, Western Pacific, shows no abrupt increase, but they are gradually increased and got stable. But probably Southeast Asia include India, so that this is the reason why the parent number is increasing. But what is the difference between these countries? I must remind the discovery by Jenner. Can we suppose herd immunity was established in these regions because of the close relationship with China? What kind of relationship? I cannot tell right now, but somewhat many kinds of relationship reasons we can find if we can study. If this is true, it may be reasonable that many reverse transcriptase RT-PCR positive people have not exhibited symptoms of COVID-19 because many subtypes of coronavirus are known to infect livestock. This may link to the discovery of the vaccine by Jenner. Actually, this was the story of cowpox. Cowpox infected girl sucking milk or transferring the boy who got the cowpox, and then infected with the smallpox, but small symptoms, and then he got the complete protection against smallpox. This is the system, mechanism of the vaccination. What do you think about the India case? Actually, BBC News provide the interesting article because the Indian people has got so many numbers of infections, but mystery behind India's lower death rates. Actually, what kind of reasons they have, I cannot tell, but this is a fact they got. And there are so many reasons they are saying, actually, but still more, even, you know, yeah, they are providing many reasons, but not so much reasonable, you know, actually not so many studies are made. But the results is the infection is high, but death rate is low. This is true. Actually, there is a long articles, but I cannot read it in detail right now. But I will. You can see later, confirmed. And so this is often preceded by an infection, sometimes minor. If you do not test, you may attribute many tests to coronavirus 19 or deny its role altogether. This is written in the article. So the situation is very, very complicated. But if you remind the general mechanism of vaccination and livestock, it may be reasonable. There may be a reasonable idea to explain the results we are observing in India. What do you think about the India case? Okay, my presentation is not so much specific, but the collective remarks to the COVID-19 crisis and SDGs. Still, apparently, we do not have clear answer to meet that crisis. However, important information worldwide is currently being accumulated. So actually the problem is that not so many information is accumulated, or we don't know, or the rare chance we have to study. So that information is very important. And now I'm focusing on the vaccination and herd immunity. These are possibly the keywords to meet with the crisis. So we have to keep our eyes open in any way to grasp the important information and make our idea comprehensive and flexible to find out our way to precisely meet with the crisis and approach to the SDGs. Thank you for your kind attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, dear Professor. It's very interesting lecture, and I want to express how I want to continue. And when you say thank you, I was so sad. Please continue. Thank you, dear Seno, for your lecture and for joining us today. I have a question from Dr. Sobhi Hasab Nabi from Egypt. So, Dr. Sobhi, please.
Thank you, Professor Seno, for good lecture. My question,
yeah.
Are you did PCR for COVID-19?
Me? My experience?
RT-PCR.
Yeah.
You are made it in your lab or?
We are testing many, but not COVID. You know that.
For COVID-19, because I see you put many primers.
Yes, right.
For COVID.
Yeah.
So you use 2 primers for the reverse only, or you use multiplex PCR?
Mm-hmm.
I believe multiplex PCR is better than when you take 2 primer for the reverse, because it's safer. But multiplex PCR you can see in multi-locus in virus, and they can give sure results for the infection and so.
Yeah, actually, I know that the PCR is, but you know, there is no evidence they are using the same and comparing the identical results. You know, I mean the protocols. What kind of protocols they are adopting to check the PCR positive people? Right, and I don't have any information about this, comparing the countries, you know, between the countries, what kind of criteria they have. So that this is a serious problem at this moment, I think.
And second question, please. For second question, for the spike, protein spikes, the protein spikes. I read before, or I mentioned before in my paper, some mutation takes place for this protein,
Yeah.
right? Or and what is the importance of this mutation? Is it positive or negative?
What do you mean by negative?
Negative, yeah. This is good for human when a mutation takes place for protein spike.
Okay.
You know, this protein for attachment,
Yes.
attachment for receptor.
Yes.
So I believe when a mutation takes place in this protein, the conformation between, or these domains between the spike protein and the receptor will be interrupted.
Okay.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I believe this is a positive or positive mutation for us, benefit. I believe that, right? Or
but the receptor is not mutated, right?
The spike protein is mutated. When the spike protein of virus is mutated,
the receptor is not mutated.
The receptor not mutated for us.
Okay.
Yes, I know. But the protein, the spike protein is mutated. So the conformation of this protein not firmly with the receptor.
Okay, but if the conformation is changing, the receptor will not affect.
I know the receptor of us, no mutation receptor, but the mutation in spike protein.
Can I answer that, Kashu?
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm showing the results of my research, which has been published on that regard, which the Shobi has asked regarding the mutations in the spike and as well as the human receptors.
Good.
And I have an experimental results. I can show that.
Good.
And regarding the PCR and the multiplex is, I think, as you asked, depend upon the different countries. Some countries are able to afford the multiplex PCR.
Right.
Some countries and some labs are not afford. They are just doing in a simple RT-PCR. It depends. Some people are just doing in a serological test. It depend upon the economy of the different place. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, molecular biology is just like this. But I'm just pointed out the generous results. You know, vaccination by virus from livestock, but it was effective to human virus. So that what kind of antibody is effective to protect the virus infection, we cannot tell right now. But the result, in fact, you know that young people, many young people are infected, even infected. Not so much symptoms are appearing. What is the reason? This is a very big point we have to explain, so that it may be possible to explain that already many people have vaccinated. How can?
Yes. Excuse me, Professor Seno. Yes. You know the viruses has evolution daily. So when we should certain type of vaccines from certain type of COVID-19 as a protein, after time, will be costless or not benefit. I believe that.
Okay, but the serious infection is reducing, you know, as I told you.
Reducing for a moment, but not forever. Maybe this year or but maybe for next year when the virus is evolution or evolution or development or so.
Okay,
we need a new vaccine.
Much rapid, you know. Actually, we have to look back into the history of the Earth, you know.
Yes.
How many years viruses are alive in the world, on Earth. And then no virus killed us, human. So they are coexisting. So that how they are existing with human or animals. Yeah.
Yeah, the type of vaccines is RNA or yeah, nucleic acid or protein.
Mhm.
The vaccination with protein,
Yes.
from protein,
Yeah.
or from the RNA.
No, or protein, surface. Yeah.
Envelope, from envelope.
Surface will
Yes.
be the most important thing.
Thank you, Professor Seno, for
Thank
this.
you.
Thank you, Dr. Sobhi. So, any question? There is another question from Dr. Hisham. So, please ask your question, Dr. Hisham.
Yes, very much for your very nice lecture. And since I am living in Sweden, then so I'm impressing about your data. So do you know why Sweden was successful?
I don't know.
Okay, I can tell you.
Yeah.
I can tell you. Because Sweden left everything open normally and working normally,
Yes.
except the high school and the university where I am.
Well,
We make the online teaching, but we keep all the research activities and everything going on. Restaurant is going on. They only give instructions to not have more than 50 in the meeting. And they left the normal transportation open. Additionally, according to the Swedish style life, they are not very social anyway. So this helped them. So
Yeah.
this is, and from the beginning, I myself as a scientist was in this side. And I was strongly believing that Sweden will be successful at the end.
Yeah. Actually, this is a very big difference between the Brazil,
Yes.
anti-lockdown. They took the same, but the lifestyle is quite different.
Yes. This is why I should focus on that too. Yes.
And I think that even the Tokyo was locked down last month or several months ago, but this lifestyle is very similar. So that it is the reason why in Japan, not so many people, the number of the people infected and death rate is low, I think. So that may be the similar style of the response to the coronavirus pandemic.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hisham. But I have a small comment. I see in Japan also have a very strict against COVID-19. And so Japan not listen Sweden to restrict. No. But it's the same in the same direction, right, Professor Seno? They regularly wear masks, using hand sanitizer, make a social distance, very careful about this. So I think the condition is the same. Maybe in the kind or the type of or species of the virus itself, or in genetic predisposition for infection itself. It's a multifactorial, not only between two countries or in another country like Sweden, Japan, USA, Egypt, India. It may be
different because as I showed you the graph, the European countries, America had the abrupt increase in the initial stage, but the other countries are not. But maybe the geological situation is related because the livestock from China is everywhere around the countries.
Yeah.
So that, it may be one of the reasons, I think. So that at this moment, there is no explanation about this.
It's totally new.
We can investigate this kind of
new virus, total new condition. You are right. Totally, I believe that it's a very multifactorial, environmental, genetics, even host immunity. Virus itself have many mutation, what's called viral load, viral amount. It's very multifactorial to get infection. So we can compare country by country or make a steps for comparison. It's very difficult. All country have its unique as in people. Every patient or every person have unique mapping for getting infection. So yes, thank you so much, dear Professor Seno. So Dr. Ibrahim with us. Dr. Ibrahim, can you hear me? Dr. Ibrahim? Okay, Dr. Ibrahim have a question. Hello, Dr. Ibrahim? So
Sandeep has a question.
Yes, please.
Yes. Good day to all of you, and good afternoon maybe in Egypt now, good morning still. So sir, just a simple question that we are discussing, that if the PCR or normal antibody titer, which one will be considered for more useful? Because as you can see that virus vaccine is very difficult, and also the mutation, if as sir is recommending, so if there is mutation and etc., then PCR is not maybe very useful technique to detect the virus. Maybe the antibody titer is useful for screening, more useful.
Yeah, I think
so. What is your advice? I just want to share my thought.
Yeah, actually, now that we know the nucleotide sequence for the viral surface proteins, such as spike proteins and matrix proteins and hemagglutinin esterase, that we can check the immunogenicity of these proteins, so that we have only to synthesize their immunogen peptide. It's nice.
Thank you, sir.
Did I answer you?
Yes, yes. I think antibody is more useful than the PCR.
Yeah. Actually, preclonal antibody will be produced if immunized, so that the preclonal situation will be the best way to protect the viral infection. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Professor. So we have a 5-minute break or 3 minutes to tell Dr. Amr prepare his presentation. Thank you so much, Professor Seno, for your time and for your presentation. Thank you, Professor Seno. And we will have break 3 minutes till Dr. Amr start his presentation. Thank you so much, dear Professor. You hear me, Dr. Professor Seno? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I said thank you so much for your presentation, for your presence today with us and answering our questions. And thank you for your time. And I'm very pleased to have you today live, not recorded. And this is good news for me because I was not agreeing about recorded video. I wanted you to be with us live. So thank you. And we have 3 minutes or 5 minutes till Dr. Amr Said prepare his presentation to share it in screen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Walaa. Thank you all committee. And I will thank committee of this symposium for this activity and for your invitation. Also, I want to thank Professor Dr. Ibrahim Tantawi, Dr. Fakumi, Professor Dr. Fakumi, Professor Dr. Gad El-Qadi, Dr. Zamb Senator of Japan in Egypt, Professor Dr. Muhammad Hashim, President of NRC, Dr. Walaa, the good active moderator.
And I will present you, dear Professor Dr. Amr. Dr. Amr Said Ahmed is Associate Professor of Biochemistry Biotechnology branch. He is the head of Biotechnology and Life Science Department, Faculty of Postgraduate Study for Advanced Science, Beni-Suef University, Egypt. He was graduated from Faculty of Science Department of Biochemistry, Ancient University, June 2001. Then he took his master in biochemistry, chemistry department, Faculty of Science, Cairo University, November 2006, and PhD of biochemistry, chemistry department, Faculty of Cairo, Faculty of Science in Cairo University, April 2010. He was a member in the research team in cancer biology, lab of Qasr Al-Aini Center of Clinical Oncology and Nuclear Medicine. From 2003 till 2013, the following research area: molecular biology, cytogenetics, and fish fluorescent in situ aggregation, tissue culture technique, flow cytometry in hemato-oncology and molecular oncology, 2013 till now. He is in the research team of Biotechnology and Life Science Department, and his research interest in molecular biology branches in hepatitis patient and oncology patients. So I will stop sharing my screen to allow you to share your screen. Thank you so much to my dear professor, and shall you start, please?
Thank you, Dr. Walaa, and thank you for committee for your introducing and for your effort in this symposium, and thank you for invitation, and thank you for the committee, Professor Dr. Ibrahim Tantawi, Professor Dr. Fakumi, Professor Dr. Gad Al-Qadi, the ambassador of Japan in Egypt, Professor Dr. Muhammad Hashim, President of NRC, and at last you, Dr. Walaa, and I will share my. Is it okay sharing?
Yes, you can full screen. I see it, but yes, thank you.
Sorry, I will close the camera to make it easily.
It's okay if you want to leave your camera on. It's okay.
So here. So,
I see the first slides. It's okay.
okay. COVID-19 genotyping and genetic susceptibility. Good afternoon, everybody. First, my lecture, I try to make it to be fine lecture and try to make it slightly clear. It's a reviewing in COVID-19 genotyping and genetic susceptibility. As we know, the novel coronaviruses in humans first discovered in Wuhan, China, in December 2019, was initially named as COVID-19 and then designed as SARS-CoV-2 due to its taxonomic and genomic relationship with species severe acute respiratory syndrome related to coronavirus. The phenotype in general for viruses feature we press in phenotypic features like transmission rate of virus, immune correlation of virus protection, and other features of specific features of viruses, such as architecture of virus particle and physical formation of it. These features are of critical importance to control and to respond medically and economically important viruses, especially during outbreaks of severe disease and dominate the general perception of viruses. The host of given viruses, after analysis, the metagenomic by next generation sequencing technology of some environmental samples, they found that the host of given viruses may be uncertain, and the pathogenicity of the viruses remain unknown for the major and fast-growing proportion of viruses, including many coronaviruses. History of these viruses, history of coronaviruses, naming during 3 zoonotic outbreak in relation to viruses taxonomy and disease caused by disease viruses, according to WHO classification. In 2003 year, severe the SARS disease, which means severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS, caused by virus COVID and its species severe acute respiratory syndrome related coronaviruses. In 2012, MERS disease, which means Middle East respiratory syndrome, caused by virus MERS COVID and its species Middle East respiratory syndrome related coronaviruses. And now coronavirus disease COVID-19, the virus caused by virus SARS-CoV-2 and its species also severe acute respiratory syndrome related coronaviruses as SARS-CoV-1. The classification of viruses of coronaviruses after detection by sequencing and detection the species of the viruses, it recognizes that 39 species in 7 subgenera, 5 genera, and 2 subfamilies belong to the family of Coronavirinae. Suborder Coronavirinae and order Nero-Virales. Realm or kingdom Ribovirinae. The family classification and taxonomy are developed. The coronavirus study group CGZ, a working group of ICTV, the International Committee of Taxonomy of Viruses that classify this. This classification depends on many genotypes or SNPs genotypes in SARS-CoV-2 virus. What's mean by SNPs? SNPs mean single nucleotide polymorphism, the single nucleotide present in the same gene but may different from species to another or allele from another. In coronaviruses, it's found in many phenotypes, different SNPs genotypes like nucleic acid phosphoprotein or RNA primase or DNA or helicase or RNA polymerase. These SNPs profiles of SARS-CoV-2 strains found that it's have high frequency mutation predominant in the virus isolate. Therefore, this high frequency mutation probably contribute to increased transmissibility. In addition to this, high frequency mutation are associated with different critical proteins. Therefore, this high frequency SNP mutation site must be considered when designing the vaccines for preventing infection of the SARS-CoV-2. So, what makes some people more vulnerable than other SARS-CoV-2? What's the role do gene network play in determining or influencing efficiency of infection, the immune response to infection or severity of COVID-19 symptoms? Genetic susceptibility. It's found that coronavirus 19 on COVID-2 spike is as SARS-CoV, the old one, and the same cellular attachment factor AC2. When they spike in the receptor of the target cell, the receptor ACA2 or TMPRSS2 can activate or can attach it by this receptor SARS-CoV-1 as the same as SARS-CoV-2. So, existing that it can be clinically approved drugs directing against TMPRSS2 to inhibit SARS-CoV infection of lung cells. Genetic susceptibility. ACE gene angiotensin converting enzyme gene encode cellular receptor of SARS-CoV-2. The genetic polymorphism exists in ACE2 genes, so allelic variants may influence the protein binding with the virus, affect the protein binding to the viruses in this receptor, and subsequent invasion of the cell. In addition, polymorphism of cellular proteases believed to facilitate the entry of SARS-CoV-2 into the cell, along with furin and TMPRSS2, have been shown to exist. In this figure, SARS-CoV-1 and SARS-CoV-2 can be attachment to the receptor ACE2 in the same behavior and same effect. Also with TMPRSS2, can the spike attach to this receptor. But when the antibody of SARS-CoV-2 can get it by immune system, can affect the high affinity against this SARS-CoV-1. And the same antibodies when found SARS-CoV-2 has effect also, but moderate effect, less than the high effect with SARS-CoV-1. Hoffman and co-workers show that SARS-CoV-2 infection depends on the host cell factor ACE and TMPRSS2 and can be blocked by clinically proven proteases. Can be blocked this receptor by proteases inhibitor. This finding may help to establish option for prevention and treatment for these viruses. In addition, polymorphisms of cellular proteases believed also to validate entry of SARS-CoV into the cells, as we see the same antibody can affect the two types of viruses, and the types of viruses can get it through the same receptor ACE2. It's now evident that not all infected patients developed a severe respiratory illness. The reason for this is currently not clear because it's undergo many hypotheses. Moreover, very little is understood about individual genetic differences in the immune response. So this new and novel version of old coronaviruses. So at the last, we wanted to ask a question. Why reinfection? Why we see some cases of infected coronaviruses and after complete treatment of the case, the case is recurrent again and be reinfected or re-diseased. Okay, this is maybe due to three reasons. The first, it's maybe reactivation, not reinfection. Reactivation of the viruses because he may be not completely treated and can get it negative by PCR, by real-time PCR of its detection. Second reason may be defect in immune system. The case is completely treatment and the immune system can defeat it by the drugs and the protocol of treatment, but the memory cell can get more cells when reinfection can make immune against it. The first reason may be the different SARS-CoV species, and this is maybe the very common the most percent of reason for this of reinfection. When many species is get in the same population and you get immune system against one species, maybe the second species when infect the person, it can be reinfection with recurrent again. By this, I think to end my small presentation and hope it's to be slightly clear to you, and thank you for attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amr. You're amazing lecture and so simple as very informative, and you keep your time. I would like to welcome any question to Dr. Amr, please. And I have a question. So you
Okay.
talk about you talk about genetic susceptibility, and I am believing in this risk factor for COVID-19 infection. So no
Yeah.
recent study about Egyptian genetic susceptibility type or mapping, right? No recent publication on this area. Or any another country, how many or why some countries more have genetic susceptibility rather than any other. So no publication in this area, right?
Yeah.
So it's very
Till
important.
now, no. Till now there is no publication till now, and it's according many reason. One of them, or most of them, that the genotyping of human and the example of ACE2 genotype of this receptor is a one example of many examples can be studied for this viruses effect against the human. So really in African population, the severity of the disease really is slightly weak according or in comparing with some population in Europe or America. I think this is due to the SNP or the difference in SNPs in genotyping in this population of human comparing to this population of Europe.
You know, if we put some links between this susceptibility in a low African country and with link with what Dr. Felix in first lecture said about environment and what about nature and zero waste. So maybe Europe and this far country exposed to some sort of distortion of environment and nature. So African is stable or for environmental condition, high temperature. I think so. But if we compare many environmental factor and genetic factor, I think we will get some good publication about this area.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Am. I have I see in chat room. Is there any question for Dr. Amr, please?
Yeah. The reactivation of the reactivation, the main reason of second pandemic, yes or no? Reactivation, it's probability, but it's weak probability. Depend on the PCR that maybe get false negative. And the big probability, as I mentioned, the two reasons may be due to immune system, defect immune system, and the main reason difference in COVID-19 species that can immune system can recognize it in the second time for infection.
So thank you, Dr. Am.
Thank
you, and I am believing that why reinfection and why till now there is no effective vaccine, because no solid immunity after infection. It's a very bad news. After infection, you can get easily reinfected many times, but in different range of power of effectiveness or symptom signs. So reinfection may occur after first infection of COVID-19 disease for the first time. So we have thank you so much, Dr. Amr, for your information and your presentation, being with us today. We have just 3 to 5 minutes to welcome our last speaker and the final presentation for today's meeting. I ask you to stop sharing your screen to welcome the next speaker. Thank you so much. Thank you. May I ask all another participant, if you aren't a speaker, please make your phone or mic mute. So, Dr. Naveen, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, I will share screen for your biography. Then you can share your screen about your presentation.
Yeah, you can share first. Whenever you are ready, Walaa.
Sorry. You can hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to welcome Dr. Naveen, right? I spell your name right?
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's
okay.
fine.
Research Fellow of Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, Monash Biomedicine Discovery Institute, PhD Molecular Cell Biology Academia, Science and National Defense Medical Center, TBTW, Master of Philosophy, Microbiology, and Master of Research of Microbiology, IN. This research work is principally focused on events central to human infection and immunity. Specifically, he works on structural and functional study on proteins involved in human adaptive immunity, such as natural killer cell receptors and cytokines and its receptors. This has important implication of understanding the disease progression in human and provide hints towards its regulation. He is also expertise in DNA RNA protein interaction and dissecting its functional importance with its physiologically role, specifically in regulation of viral RNA replication and control of translation in human. So welcome, my dear professor. I will stop share my screening to share yours. So please.
All right. I hope you guys can see my screen. Is that clear?
Yes, it's so clear.
Okay. Let me start with a very simple question in the field of COVID-19 research. We all know the COVID-19 is very virulent, but the question comes is why it is so hypervirulent or why so virulent, and how it is going to play with human system or human cells, and how is entering. So these are all the questions we still have, and we all talking about so far. I'm listening to lectures and different people, and there are many questions, important questions has been addressed. But in this talk, I hope I can answer most of these questions with the aid of structural and functional studies at atomic resolution. So basically how these viral proteins are interacting, are entering the human cell, and what is a path it is adopting and how we can control. That's why I put the topic as why the COVID-19 is virulent and potential targets to combat the COVID-19. And also I will present what are the clinical trials we have done in the hospitals and what are the outcome from the patients as well. Just to remind, this is a talk regarding my recent 7 publications in the COVID-19 and also the clinical trials. I summarized into just few slides, and I hope it can bring to your attention. I don't want to tell about this, like what are the symptoms and causes and whatever it is happened. It has now is spread all over the world, causing a severe problem. And now people are saying any sort of a symptom is leading to they're diagnosing or suggesting it could be a COVID-19, but not like that. There are very particular reasons and symptoms are the hallmarks for SARS infection. But today also there are so many drugs, so many. They're all saying, you can see the news like this is drug can cure, that drug can cure, hydroxychloroquine can cure. Nothing is all are not promising drug. Even you would have heard that Trump has withdrawn his words regarding the hydroxychloroquine doesn't work. So it's all the battle is what is working and what is true. What is the true drugs which can really work? And a malarial drug, hydroxychloroquine, how could you expect that it can work on the virus? It's really hypothetical. There is no evidence. We all need an evidence-based research, experimental research that gives a firm and fundamental answers to proceed further in the research, not talking about the arbitrary stuff, what we can do. So as you all know from today, there are so many people, I think it's pretty old data, and at least in the, today in Australia itself, we have 22,000 people are infected, and we still, a clear second wave has been noticeable in Australia and many other countries. Why? Because the 2 reasons. Number 1 is containment. That's the most important thing which has broken, because of some people has, it will very contained here, but the people has transmitted and community transmission and then spreading now. The first and foremost important for any viral or any bacterial infection is prevention. Prevention is better than cure as it goes. If no prevention, it's very hard to find any cure. Actually, for the COVID-19 infection, you don't need any cure. You just need to contain. Prevention is enough. But the thing is, we need also a prevention and also to understand to combat this disease and cure this viral infection at any circumstances. But how? To make a vaccine or to develop a drug or to fight against any viral infection, the first and foremost thing is important is understand the viral entry and mechanism of viral interaction and how it is working and how it is entering. The fundamentals of the virus is very much important. The first and foremost, if you look into the genetic mapping and as well as how the rate of mutations of this virus is going on. Let's take in a Wuhan, where is in the start point of where the origin of the virus has taken, as eventually has mutated into different subgroups. Each clusters of the color is represented each mutation. Means is mutation means there are several types of mutation. It could be in a single nucleotide mutation called SNP. That may not affect sometimes, but sometimes it may affect. But sometimes a whole gene or the whole protein is being deleted. That causes a severe problem as well. So based on the rates of the mutation, the changes in the serotype of the virus, right now we have 7 different serotypes of the COVID-19 virus, which is clustered in the blue, cyan, green, and what are the other colors. And among them, the rate of mutations, we can see highest number in ORF1AB. That corresponds for around 27 proteins. And S protein, that is a spike protein, has the mutations. But every protein has a mutation in one or the other way. But what the more interesting part is the spike protein, because that is the one which is involved in the viral entry. That is, if you can somehow regulate the viral entry, then we can, later we can combat over the other proteins which are being synthesized in the human. Many people talk about this, also I can also talk about the rate of mutations. Just like, for example, I'm talking about a spike protein. In different countries like in Australia, Brazil, Canada, and we take a number of countries, in the period of the time, the different spots here, you can see the mutation where it is observed, where red color indicates the mutation which has a serious effect, and where the light orange is a moderate and the white color is very less important mutation. It's not a significant mutation. But some of that such specific mutations has resulted in blocking or changing its interaction with the ACE2. But we are not sure whether that ACE2 still blocks. But there is a mutations which are involved in the interaction between the ACE2 protein. So this result has been come from a large sequencing results from a large group of populations, and compiling all the data has been, and then we summarized and bring out what are the pros and cons, what are the sequences, and what are the rate of mutations has been observed. But this doesn't tell our solution. This doesn't tell what could be the cause. But as we all look into the mode of viral entry, like a cell enters, virus enter the cell and it opens up and produces viral proteins and it assembles and replicates. It's not so simple as we look. It doesn't, only one virus doesn't sit on the cell. But when we look into the EM of it, one cell will sit within tens and thousands of viruses. One cell, human cell, can accommodate. Like in each endocytosis virus, and the virus which undergo the endocytosis, there's at least 20 virus particles are there. You can see they're all sitting on the human cell. The tens and thousands of the virus sit on the, you can see the another transmission electron within a, scanning electron microscopy picture shows that all the green particles are the viruses, and the red particle is the dendritic cells. So it's not like a single virus will enter and you can block it, but it's a long range, a broad range, you have to combat the virus for entry. So what is required is what is happening between the virus and the cell interaction. That is called the junction. In another way, this is a human cell and this is a virus. And at this junction, what is happening? And can we block it? Many people talk about the three, and even previous speakers talked about the key viral receptors called ACE2. Yeah, ACE2 is one of the important things. Is there any evidence anyone has found if the absence of ACE2 virus cannot enter? No, there is no result, no evidence is there. If no ACE2 virus cannot enter. Virus enters in many different ways. Just like a human cell is a house, and ACE2 is one of the door. It could be a main door, but the thief can enter with a main door, window, back door. So many doors are there. The virus also can enter with an endocytosis, engulfment, and just a receptor-based mode. There are so many receptors are there, CLEX, CD26, ACE2, and TMPRSS, and all those things are the receptors which are present on the cell. So any of the receptors has a pseudo binding can enter the cell. But today I'm going to talk about what is happening in this red box junction at atomic resolution to tell and show how they look like, how they interact each other, and what are the drugs we have developed, and what are the trials has been done clinically, and what is the outcome in the patients. So let's talk about one by one. So let's talk about the one by one. The spike protein as such, if you look at the sequence in the SARS-1 and Wuhan-1 or SARS-2, there are several changes are there. These are the box regions are in a huge amount of the changes are the mutations where signifies the SARS-2 is different from the SARS-1 even at the spike protein, which is, we can say the spike protein is like in a clothes, which is wearing by the virus. And one among them is the furin stuff. I will come back to part later. So first we have looked at the glycosylation pattern. It's a glycosylation of the SARS spike protein. So glycosylation is something but in sugar, which is attached on the surface of the protein. Now the protein is just there on the SARS. It is covered with the sugar. Whenever the sugar is present, the green and blue part, or the sugar is present on the surface of the protein, it is very less immunogenic because sugars doesn't respond, doesn't give any antibodies much, very less, very fair. And none of the antibodies binds to sugars at higher affinity. It's basically the sugar or glycosylation on the surface of the spike protein is a shield, is an virals protect from the antibodies to recognize and not to recognize by the T cell and the NK cell receptors and then killing the virus. It's one sort of a defense mechanism. Want to survive, cell want to survive, virus want to survive. There is nothing bad about. So it has this defense system. So first we have understood what is the difference between the SARS-1 and SARS-2, the glycosylation pattern. Yes, they are different, but what matters if different, and what are the key regions where glycosylation, sugar is not there? For example, let's talk about here, the green and the blue part, the glycosylation parts. And the another non-glycosylation parts are still exposed. So those are the key targets where we can make a monoclonal antibodies or polyclonal antibodies. If you want to just raise a generalized polyclonal antibodies by purifying the protein, it doesn't work. Because in nature, the protein is covered with the glycosylation, glycan shield is there. So if you are making an antibody here, it doesn't work because that is the presence of the sugar. So you should make an antibody here. That gives an idea that how and where are the key locations where we can develop a potential antibody to block or target the SARS COVID-19 virus. That's one of the approach. So further that, and we also propose how the SARS protein will bind to the ACE2 receptor by opening in a sequential conformation mode of its protein, where it sits in the closed conformation. When it is nearing to the receptor called ACE2, it will opens up and catches and enter. That could be one of the possibility. Similar like that, in not just in ACE2, we also have another protein called a CD26 or a DPP4. It's called dipeptidyl peptidase. It is a key receptor for MERS. And we first looked into whether MERS receptor can also act as a receptor for SARS-2. And we found yes, it does. And it is not just CD26 or it is not just the ACE2 is involved in the receptor. It is also DPP4 or CD26 can also interact with the SARS spike protein, which is solved by the structure. And then there's both protein structures are being solved with the binding at the higher affinity. And we also see that there are so many papers after we published and many people are published stating that DPP4 is necessary for COVID-19 DPP4. And in 3 months, we received 112 citations for our first articles, which is published in the COVID-19 and the interaction with the DPP4 or the CD26. And based on that, we also developed the mouse models to testing the viral infection in the ACE2 and DPP4 to test virus can infect the mouse, which is delete the ACE2 or delete the DPP4 so that the virus can infect or not infect. And then a couple of more papers also came into conclusion that yes, MERS receptor DPP4 could be a candidate for SARS-2. So that makes a more pronounced, not an ACE2. People are still following ACE2 because that was the first known, but people are not much understanding the other receptors and the importance, and they are all working together and for the viral entry and endocytosis. And we, with the knowledge of knowing the thing, and as one of the audience has asked whether the vitamins are important to in a supplement. Yes, As many papers as shows that vitamin D levels are important for COVID-19, and vitamin D has a direct role in interaction with the DPP4. So DPP4 is a potential target for vitamin D is a potential inhibitor. So vitamin D will block basically vitamin D block the DPP4, and so that the virus cannot attach to the DPP4. So that's another way of, that's why vitamin D is getting an importance, like it is blocking the viral entry. So now we know if you are putting a DPP4 here, the virus attachment here can be restricted. So that's how we come to know how the viral interact with the DPP4 or the another viral particles. So understanding that is not enough. So we've next looked at what could be in a drug we can develop so that we can block the interaction here, or we can abolish the interaction or formation of the spike protein. So we don't want the spike protein. The spike protein should be non-functional. That's the first idea. We first looked into some of the H3N2, that is the influenza virus. There are some, there is a drugs which can Arbidol like that, which can block the viral trimerization. And we use the drug to put into the pseudovirus of the SARS, and also treated with the drug with the spike protein. And interestingly, this drug, Arbidol, binds at very high affinity to this protein. And binding of this drug, what happens is it chelates, and means there are the 3 proteins in the virus, right? Spike protein is made of trimers. So 3 molecules is together makes one functionally active spike protein. So this drug binds in each position and makes the trimer is non-functional. So it breaks up the spike protein. So that was a result. We found also Arbidol can effectively block the virus. When we add the Arbidol drug in the tissue culture grown cells and infect the virus, and then add the Arbidol, its viral entry has been drastically reduced compared to another drugs like Balaxavir and Leminafir, Zanamir, and other important drugs. Then taking this understanding, and we also looked at what are the key amino acids of the spike protein which can interact with the Arbidol drug, which is come from our structure of the protein, of the spike protein. And then we collaborate with 2 universities. One is Kanagawa University in Japan, and as well as Dr. Peng Peng from the Wuhan Pulmonary Hospital. That's the first hospital where it is reported for the COVID-19. And Dr. Peng Peng is a director general in that hospital and has a high reputation, and she has been working on COVID-19 since the start of the Wuhan hospital. And we use this drug to treat patients around this 470 patients. And we have 2 key sets. Number 1, the top panel with the patients are just given with the oxygen, vitamins, and passed within the ventilators. And the day 5, there is still, you can see the COVID-19 infection is accumulation. And day 15, it has been very worst. And day 20, it has become completely occupied the lungs. So at this point, we stopped just giving vitamins and ventilators and went for the further drug treatment options. In the parallel, what we did is an oxygen and as well as treating with an Arbidol. A patient comes with a COVID-19 patient that comes with a severe breathing problem and a lot of infection symptoms. And you can see the lot of lumps of the formation in the lungs, which is all the mucus has formed and infection has been developed. So from the day 1 to day 15, you can see the clearance of the lumps. So sequentially, the Arbidol drug has effectively worked in the patients, and also sort of around 84% of the patients who are given the Arbidol drug has got recovered and went home. So that was very promising for us. And then we also tested with another competitive drugs like ritonavir or leponavir and ostelavir, as well as Arbidol drug. And compared to other drug options, like the mild symptoms are there, but it is not much recovered. But compared to the Arbidol one, it has recovered pretty much. Based on this study and what has in a clinical outcomes and the structural study has been came into, the Russian government and Russia has approved the Arbidol, and it has you can see in any of the Russian news, our university and name has been, and my name has been announced in the newspapers for finding the potential Arbidol drug for the potential treatment for the COVID-19, and they approved the drug as to be conducted in the human trials, and they are using in Russia. And basically the Arbidol is discovered by the Russia in sort of 1980s, something like that, but for different viral infections. And now it is being very well used in the Arbidol in the Russia also. So that is the first part, to understand the interaction and the blocking the ACE2 with the spike protein. The second thing is how interestingly, as the SARS-2 has a unique insertion of an furin protease. So furin protease has never, the insertion of furin protease has never observed in any of the SARS virus. Let's take about the bat, human, and normal SARS-1 and other SARS viruses not there. A couple of people have spoke about, like in the coronavirus, this is present in long time from with different animal origin, but it was never been present in any other species of any other previous origin of the viruses, but only in the SARS-2 is present. It's not my result, it's not only my result, it is also published in the high profile journals like Nature Medicine and many others. And what does it happens in the presence of this virus, this sequence is it cuts the virus spike protein into two halves. So let me show you in the structural way what we have discovered in that regard. So let's take about the furin expression in the human. Furin is in a protease in the human. Lung, you can see that, is very highly expressed. Liver, it is highly expressed. Also, where is the intestine? Intestine is also highly expressed. Thus, a region like wherever it's highly expressed, it can cleave the spike protein. So what happens if the spike protein cleavage is happening? So first we have to understand how the furin is going to work, how the furin attaches the spike protein, attacks the spike protein, how it is functioning, and why it is binding of furin will make the COVID-19 more hypervirulent, or what is the benefits of the virus if the furin is present. So any modifications or any mutation or evolution happen in the nature for the benefit of that organism, isn't it? So similarly, the COVID-19 SARS to get the furin sequence into it to getting protected to become more virulent and more, it is benefit for that virus, you want to evolve. So once the spike protein, that's why we saw the structure of the spike protein in complex with the furin protease. The furin protease bind to the spike, the key binding region of the spike protein, because the three spike proteins, the three furins can bind to the protein and it will cleave. So once the spike protein get cleaves, we also tested in the in silico, the spike proteins treated with the furin, you will get an S1 domain and S2 domain has been separated. If you delete the furin in the human cells, like this is a deletion of the cells, it cannot cut the spike protein into two halves. So when the spike protein is being treated with furin, it will split into the S2 domain and S1 domain. Well, it split into S1 and S2 domain. So what? That's the main question. We always we want to ask why, what, and what happens, and what does it mean? So when it splits, assume that I'm wearing a Santa Claus dress and come to a party with wearing a Santa Claus dress. And can anyone recognize me? Thus Naveen is come there. No. But when I remove all my costume of the Santa Claus dress, and I'm totally different than Santa Claus, isn't it? The virus is doing the same. The virus is coming with this extra bit of an S1 domain and wearing an all glycan and sugar on the top of it and entering the cell. The human immune system thinks That is something. And they're preparing the combat, the antibodies for this S1 region, sugar region, and other region. But it get cleaves and strips back into this region. Now it is a different. And the human system is already late to, because it's developed all the stuff it is from here. So this one, the orange and green and cyan part is buried inside that. So it being separated, and this will go into the cell again. That's how it is working. That's why it is making it hypervirulent. You are showing something and doing something. That's how the virus is doing. That's why it's cleaving and spike protein is going to work on. And then we also, with that knowledge, we, based on the structure of the proteins and mode of interaction with the protein and the SARS, we found and developed the two potential drugs, like an 2,5-deoxystreptomycin, and another kind is an AMBA compounds, like a peptide-based drugs. And when we treat these drugs with the human furin protein, it is completely blocking the interaction with the spike protein with the furin. So blocking the spike protein with the furin is very beneficial, which means like you lock the conformation. You are not allowing to strip the dress of the spike protein. It is what it is. You're not going to change, and allowing the time and period for the immune system of the human to combat for this existing the conformation of the virus. So we're not allowing the virus to change its conformation because of the furin, or change its two pieces and behave differently. So if you block this, then it will retain like this. It doesn't change, isn't it? So you have more given time for the virus and the human system to combat and work on it. Some of the person has asked what could be another genetic variants and factors what could be influence for the viral infection and others. We also looked into the whole exome sequencing data for the human. And with respect to the furin is a protein is a furin, and orange is a key amino acid genetic variants. Like it could be genetic variances in the different countries, has different people, has a genetic variants. So that causes the changes in the binding affinity of the furin with the drugs and as well as others. The similar, like for example, some people are lactose intolerant. Some people are gluten intolerant. Why? And some people has a brown hair, and some people, some people has a different colored hair. Some people has blue hair. Why is all different? That's all comes from a single point mutation. So any single point mutation can also influence in a complete different change in the phenotype. So that's why we also looked into what are the phenotypes could happen if mutation happens, whether the binding affinity changes. For example, let's take in a wild type protein is something binding affinity is 35 kilocalories of energy is released when it's binding. But if the mutation happens, there are the binding alterations happens. Let's take, for example, this mutation has happened, is binding is very weak. So very weak binding means is a benefit for humans and not good for the virus. That's what we want. But different human population has different genetic variations. So to address this, I can come to that point later. So we also propose a simple schematic view that the spike protein, the trimer, will bind to an ACE2 or CD26, whatever. The furin protein is going to bind and cleave into the S1 and S2 protein. But the drugs are binding, which can block this kind of an interaction between the furin and as well as the spike protein. That is very, very important with respect to control of the disease progression, and also control or inhibiting virus to mimic in different ways. The similar way, the question again remains, another is the TMPRS system, which the people asked. So how does the TMPRS system work? So many people also asking question, talk about the virus enter to ACE2 receptor, virus interact with TMPRS2 receptor, but how? That's the main question we have to address. And how? and what is a mode and what is a mechanism of interaction. If we know, then we can block that. That's what we are doing here as well. So until now, no one knows how TMPRSS2 interacts, because the TMPRSS2 interaction site is inside the furin cleaved site. For example, if this virus is, the spike protein is there, TMPRSS doesn't interact. When the spike protein is cleaved by the furin, and then it becomes in a cleaved fragment of S2, this portion will further interact with the TMPRSS2 and enter the cell. So that's a 3 level of the defense system the spike protein is maintaining. So we also understand how the TMPRSS2 interact with the spike protein, and then we also develop the we understand that the TMPRSS2 is the key, one of the terminal or the third receptor for a spike protein entry. With that knowledge, and we collaborate with Dr. Nageshwar Reddy. He is a renowned scientist in India, and he is also a Padma Shri, one of the highest civilian award in India, and he received from the President of India, and he is the Dr. Nageshwar Reddy. And I collaborate with his hospital, and he has a high profile ranking in the medical field, and I want to collaborate and see how Indian population at least are genetically modified with some of the terminal receptor, that's the TMPRSS2. So we performed in around 700 human patients plus 300 of healthy patients we took from Hyderabad of India, and do an exome sequencing for all those patients, and as well as healthy individuals sequencing, and then collect the data, and then we looked into what are the genetic modification has happened in Indian population that could have resulted in difference in the viral infection or severity in the viral infection. One such mutation is V160 in the TMPRSS2 mutation. What is that? Is a valine in 160 is changed to methionine in most of the human population in Indian community. So what does it mean? Once the mutation has happened, the structure of the protein changes. For example, the blue color is the original protein, and the greenish blue or another color is the mutant protein. When the mutation has happened, so you can see the secondary structure of the protein here, the 2 beta sheets has been broken, no alpha helix, it has become very random. So it causes a random instability of the protein. Once the TMPRSS2, the protein get unstable, so it is weak and it cannot receive the virus. That's good for humans, that is good for us. That's why our infection rate is mild. Probably one of the reasons, I'm not saying that's the reason. That will be one of the reasons. That's why some of the Indian community population has showing some mild phenotypic reasons. But this mutation is also not present in all people. We found in around 70% of COVID patients, and whoever have this mutation has mild symptoms, not the severe symptoms. So which means not only the viral mutations is directly linked with the symptomatic or severeness of the virus or the infection, but the human receptors also play a very vital role to severity of the infection and the complexity of the infection and others. Because it has passed through 2 modes of infection, the terminal receptor, it has been not functional. What happens is it works, it infects, but it's still a mild. It's because for this protein, who is the receptor is receiving the virus, is not much stable now. So, and for that, we also developed a couple of drugs for that, and which could potentially block that. Those drugs are Chemostat, Nafmostat, Upmostat, and bromoxyhexine, and they all worked very well in the patients as well. And then, we want to treat that in the broad range patients to see how this can affect. So, in summary, this The COVID-19 infection, I'm just talking about only the terminal part, which is the furin, TMPRS, and ACE2 or something like that, ACE2 or CD26, is a 3-level blocking system. The virus enters, cascades into 3 defense mechanisms. So if you want to block, we need to block all the 3 is better. Like it's not like there is nothing called a single drug can cure everything. So I'm not saying that may work, but it's better to have a blocker for every different step. So 3 different steps, block for the 3 different steps. For example, the first step where the spike protein interaction with the CD26 or ACE2, we need to have a drugs here. And we also develop the drugs and which is effectively worked in the patients also in the arbidol, which block the trimerization of the protein. That is first line of a defense. Second line of a defense is blocking the furin interaction with the spike protein so that you block the division or separation of the spike protein into S1 and S2 domain, which can be supplemented with the 2 drugs of these. Similar, like to block the interaction with the TMPRSS2 with the spike protein, rest of the spike protein, we also can develop, we also have drugs which we are using in the patients also right now and testing in the clinical trials, which can block the infection. So in other words, the individual monomers of the spike protein will become a trimer. The arbidol can block this trimer formation, or arbidol can block the trimer formation even after its formation. And the furin drugs can also block, and so that it can block the interaction between the 2 proteins. And the nefmostat, something like this, can block the TMPRS2 interaction. So that this addresses in a 3-level, 3-stage blocking mechanism for SARS viral entry into the human cell. With this, thank you all, and I'm happy to take questions of any kind.
Thank you so much, my dear professor. I would like to welcome any question for Dr. Naveen. So please, you can ask it this question directly or type it in chat room. So informative lecture and really amazing.
No worries.
If you check the chat, you will find many thanks for you. And for,
no problem. Thank you very much for that.
For your presentation, while I writing in the chat room, I read it. Yes, Professor Fukami, please.
Professor Amr and Professor Hisham have a question.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, Amar also has question. I see that. Yes.
Okay, and Dr. Amr also. So please, yes. Dr. Hisham.
Thank you very much for your very intensive lecture. It's really very, very interesting. And my question to you that what do you think about the trials of chloroquine and the other alkaloid derivatives from natural resources regarding the clinical studies? What do you think about that? In the beginning, they said that it is really very effective, but after some time, there is another discussion. Yeah. So what is your opinion, please?
With respect to hydroxychloroquine?
Yes.
As a researcher, I can say it's very political. And, but see, even that time, the high-profile journals like New England Journal of Medicine and in Nature Medicine, they all said that no to the hydroxychloroquine, but some higher officials in the United States have still pushed it. But ultimately, he also apologized recently. The hydroxychloroquine doesn't work. Just the reason is, of course, it's different drug and some other plant extracts and what you are saying maybe work. See, for example, even today, there is no firm, precise drug for COVID-19, but many people are still recovering, isn't it? So how they are recovering? The natural immune system of the human can also help to combat And some of the complements of the drugs and other, it will definitely boost some extent. Even though we don't have any firm promising this is a specific drug, but still working in some other way because the natural immune system can work on it. But I cannot say the natural compounds will not work, but we don't know the mechanism of the work. That's what we have to understand.
Right. Oh, yes. Oh,
yeah, basically, a good food and a complex food, which is having all nutritions, will keep you healthy and protect from the virus. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, of course. I, as a natural product chemist, I like very much
Yeah,
a compound
definitely.
comes from nature, and I'm going to talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah,
But,
that's good. Yeah.
yes, you clarified it very clearly. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hisham. I have a question from Dr. Amr. Please, Dr. Amr.
Thanks, Walaa. Thanks, Dr. Naveen. It's a very, very interesting lecture and very specific in molecular biology lecture, and very interesting to me.
Thank you.
I want to ask about furin protection from the human. Furin you say that it can cleave the coronavirus COVID-19. If it can do it, why I do the drug? Why there is infection? It's why it can tolerate the whole infection of the viruses, especially the virus not enter the body as a sudden. It's enter slowly by the chest.
Okay, I'm not saying it can. It will. Means that's very well proved. Like many papers came out lately. Also, the spike protein will cleave. That's very confirmed, and it is going to cleave in the human system also. That's very clear. It's not, although I'm saying in a stepwise, but that's all happens just like that. It's not like what I'm talking. It's all in the molecular, in the cell. It happens in nanoseconds. Everything finishes. Yeah. So I'm not saying it goes step by step, but this all happens without a blink of eye. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Amr. Thank you. Dr. Sobhi, I have a question, please.
Thank you for a good lecture. I have a question. What is the main mechanism for hydroxyquine?
There is no mechanism has been proposed. There is nothing has been addressed. They are simply saying, given the drug is given, people are recovering. That's what's been there. But that's a major drawback, which I said. The people are coming with just an assumption, rational. But where is the evidence? And what is the functional mechanism? Nothing there. So, for example, Arbidol, I told what is the mechanism of action. Or the chemostat, nefmostat, I told the mechanism of action. And if it's a chloroquine, where it binds and how it binds and what it works, no one knows and doesn't work. Basically, there's a malarial drug. Malaria and coronavirus, I don't know where is the relation of those two.
But I hear hydroxyquine, this is rise the pH of the cells, of the cytoplasm of the cells.
Yeah.
So it prevent the viruses to fusion through membrane to outside or inside.
Yeah, it will change the importing.
On pH.
Yeah, it will change the pH of the cells in the
yes.
And also
to
because
alkaline, to alkaline pH.
Right.
So this is help the cell or prevent the fusion of viruses to go outside the cells or enter the cells.
True, but we're not sure yet, like because many of the recent studies also showed it may not work because it did not show any firm results recently about the hydroxychloroquine. The change in the pH of the cell is definitely helps in the viral fusion, but the viral fusion is also mediated by many mechanisms. So yes. That's why, see, people are like ACE2 inhibitors. First, they say all talk about ACE2. There are so many ACE2 inhibitors are there. In every market is available, but why is not working? If it's ACE2 is the only receptor, it would have been cure for that today, but it doesn't work.
Yes.
And hydroxychloroquine is not working.
I think
I mean,
as you mentioned, it's a political because it's not specific for treatment, not the treatment of a choice, first treatment choice. Yes, you are right. Dr. Ibrahim, don't we have a question? Yes, please. Please unmute yourself. I don't hear you.
Ibrahim has muted the.
Hear me? Oh,
Yes.
You hear me?
Yes, now I hear you.
You hear me? Okay.
Now I hear
Okay.
you. So please.
Okay. Thank you very much, Doctor, for your interesting lecture.
Thanks, Ibrahim.
So my question is, you said the mechanism of the chloroquine, the anti-malarial drug, is not known, isn't it?
Yeah.
But in fact,
mechanism of chloroquine in malaria parasite is known.
Yes, is known. So as you know, the chloroquine in malaria, because it contains a basic side chain, so it can be trapped in the parasite food vacuole, okay? And they act as an inhibitor for inhibiting the dimerization of heme, because malaria digests the hemoglobin in the food vacuole to get the globin and then break the globin to amino acid to use it to build its own protein, okay? And the heme become toxic for the parasite, and the chloroquine inhibit polymerization of heme because it dimerize or polymerize to be detoxified. So the chloroquine inhibits this step, okay? So what I want to understand, I can't understand, if the hydroxychloroquine and the chloroquine, I guess if both act on the malaria parasite as a drug or as an anti-malarial agent, and now what we heard is that it could be used as antiviral, anti-COVID-19. So I think, do you believe this?
I don't believe the use of the chloroquine in the COVID-19 because
or the hydroxy,
yeah.
So,
yeah, I don't believe the use of the hydroxychloroquine can work in the COVID-19. I don't have any belief in that.
Okay.
I understand that. Yeah.
But why, for example, in US, they approved it, the FDA, to use it as a drug for.
But
yeah, it has been approved in United States. That's what I mentioned.
Dr. Ibrahim, yes, the FDA removes this approval. I hear this new about removal chloroquine from COVID-19 treatment choices. I hear this news, so yes, remove.
And recently, Trump is also saying he's taking back his words. Yeah.
Because, yes, because it's no effect and not beneficially give any improvement for the patient. Instead, the chloroquine have very side effects and complications.
Very toxic. Yeah.
Yes, toxic on heart and may cause sudden and also on kidney may cause sudden death if anyone under several conditions this problem take it. So I think chloroquine removed from FDA approval for COVID-19 treatment recently, from recent time.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Walaa.
Thank you,
Dr.
Thank you,
Naveen. Thank you so much for your interesting lecture. And I am happy that you are not believing chloroquine, because I know many friends die from chloroquine while they infected by COVID-19 and they were doctors and they take chloroquine and has many bad complication, serious complication. And when any patient ask me, I wanted to buy chloroquine to I am infected by COVID-19. I say to him or her, no, no, it's toxic. Yes, no,
Yeah.
no, it's toxic. So thank you so much, and I will introduce the next day tomorrow speaker. So I will share my screen. Tomorrow is our last day for symposium. We have Dr. Amani, Dr. Amani, Researcher Assistant, Chemistry Department and Faculty of Science in Nova University, Egypt, and had a master's degree. She is a master's degree student at University of Suffolk, United Kingdom. Currently, she is participating in project development of affordable kits for COVID-19 early detection from AGER Institute, Egypt. Moreover, she had participated in many other projects and in TBR Institute, Egypt. This is tomorrow first speaker. Also, as our schedule, we have Dr. Amani, then Dr. Mohammed Salah. He will send a recorded video from Riyadh, from Saudi Arabia. He is a professor of internal medicine, a consultant hepatologist, GIT endoscopic, and from Faculty of Medicine, Azhar University, Egypt. And also we have Dr. Hisham Saidi, part of molecular bioscience, the Winner Green Institute, Stockholm University, Sweden. Dr. Amira Muhammad Osman, Lecturer, Department of Histology and Cell Biology, Faculty of Medicine, Kafr Sheikh University, Egypt. And finally, we will have Dr. We will have Dr. Pala from India. Just a minute, I will share his biography. You see Dr. Mohammed Salah? I share my screen. It's clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, security product.
Thank you. Dr. Mohammed Salah Hussein is consultant of gastroenterology and endoscopy, MC, master degree in internal medicine, PhD degree in gastroenterology, UK, and he is fellow Kyoto University, fellow of advanced endoscopy, Japan, and research fellow in Baylor College of Medicine, Texas, professor in Faculty of Medicine, Al-Azhar University, Cairo, Egypt. Dr. Amani, Dr. Hisham, Dr. Hisham Saidi will be the next speaker. He is working in the area of food chemistry, sciences, isolation, structure of biological active natural product from medicinal plants, marine and bee product. Professor Hisham is a fellow of Japan Society of Promotion of Science, JSPS, Faculty of Science and Technology, Japan. And also his career, he worked in pioneer internationally recognized laboratories, including Geneva University and KTH University, Stockholm University, Sweden, Department of Medicine and Chemistry, Biomedical Center. He was appointed as adjunct faculty professor at International Center of Chemical Biological Sciences, 2017. Dr. Amira Muhammad Osman is lecturer of Department of Histology and Cell Biology, Faculty of Medicine, Kafr al-Sheikh University, Egypt. She obtained a master's degree from Faculty Medicine, Cairo University, Egypt, and she is a head of management and assessment unit, Faculty of Medicine, Kafr al-Sheikh University, Egypt, 2020. She works as postdoctoral researcher in lab of Nano-Biotechnology research in biotechnology, cancer research, and cell biology at Okayama University, Japan, 2019. And she is a membership of Kafr al-Sheikh University Unit for Harassment and Violence Against Women. She works as member of Quality Assurance Unit, Faculty of Medicine, Kafr al-Sheikh University, Egypt, and she was assistant lecturer of Department of Histology and Cell Biology, Faculty of Medicine, University, Cairo University, 2014. Our last speaker for tomorrow's session is Dr. Bala Ganesh from India, from National Institute of Epidemiology, Indian Council of Medical Research, Chennai. He was awarded doctorate in microbiology virology from University of Kolkata. Previously worked at National Research Center of Disease Control, National Institute of Cholera and Endemic Disease, Kolkata. He was published 41 research articles, 2 books, chapters, and a book. He got selected for Infectious Disease Fellow Program at American Society of Microbiology Conference, Microbe 2018 at Atlanta, USA during June 7 to 11, 2018. And he is the principal investigator for the DST-JSPS Joint Research Project under Prestige Indian-Japan Cooperative Science Program. Recently, he made an exchange visit to Professor Nobio Nishi, Professor and Head Department of Hygiene, Sapporo University School of Medicine, Sapporo, Japan, between 26 January to 11 February 2020. So tomorrow will be our last day, and it will be, as you see, busy as the day. We will finish by 4 p.m. Cairo time. So I hope you enjoy all our sessions today and the tomorrow and the past 3 days. If you have any question, please type it in Google document and share in the chat room. And also, I send the link for our Facebook group for the symposium. I will leave this Facebook group after finishing the symposium event. I will leave it for good networking between all of us. And also, I publish every day the YouTube all lecture on YouTube channel, so you can watch it more than one time and to have it forever for you. May I ask all speakers to do please send the recommendation for our symposium by tonight. We can publish this recommendation tomorrow, inshallah, in the closing ceremony. So Dr. Ibrahim, Dr. Sobhi, and Dr. Naveen, Dr. Hisham, all our Dr. Seno, all our participants and my eminent guests and speakers, thank you so much. Please, Dr. Ibrahim, I know you were busy all past days, so I will be honored to give some words for closing the day. So please, I will welcome you. Please, Dr. Ibrahim, you hear me? Okay, just a few words. I know you are busy and you have many responsibilities, so I will welcome some words from you today and Prof. Okayama. Thank you. I don't hear you. You still mute. So please, I will. Yes, I hear you.
Okay, are you hearing me now?
أنا سامعك كده يا دكتور إبراهيم، اتفضل، سامعك.
Thank you very much for all eminent today. It was very fruitful and really I enjoyed not all the lecture because I have exam, so I enjoyed some, and I hope tomorrow will be also the last day, and of course we will gain the fruits of all days by the recommendations that Dr. Walaa will present. Of course, Dr. Walaa, really you did a big job. You have really organized everything in a nice way. And thank you so much for your time and your efforts. And I wish all participants and attendees best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ibrahim, and thank you for your support. And thank you for Dr. Gatli Al-Qadi. He is not with us today, but I want to thank him. Thank you, Professor Fukami. You are still here with us. Thank you. Thank you, dear Professor Seno. And I appreciate you can join us in spite all your duty and busy schedule. But thank you so much, Dr. Seno. Thank you, Professor Fukami. The words for you.
Thanks so much, dear all. We are very happy to invite so excellent lecturers to hear the support of Dr. Walaa. I am very appreciate this the lecture. So if it is possible, we will continue these lectures, and also we will to link some publish supported by JSPS. Yesterday I mentioned. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, dear Professor. It's my honor to arrange this symposium and to launch this important event about COVID-19. And I am so happy all my dear participants and all my invited speakers deal with this crisis in very excellent way, very non-technical and technical lectures, very simple, very informative. I received many comments in chat and in my phone and in by emails to thanks all speakers, and I will share all these thanks for all speakers and for the organizing committee about this important event. Thank you so much, and I don't want to say bye, but I know today it was a long day, so I will leave you to have some rest and to take lunch, and see you tomorrow, inshallah. See you tomorrow, inshallah. Inshallah, at morning, it will start at 12 p.m. Cairo time, and we'll finish our 5 lectures, then give our recommendation for this closing ceremonies. So stay with us for the last day. Thank you so much. Thank you to Professor Fukami. Thank you, Dr. Ibrahim. Thank you, Dr. Sobhi, all my speakers. Thank you, Professor Seno, Dr. Hani, Dr. Amr, Dr. Maya, Dr. Amira, Dr. Hiba. I don't want to miss anyone from participants now. Dr. Matt Hirjbi, Dr. Amr Ahmed. Thank you so much. Thank you. Dr. Maha Tawan. Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye. So may I ask you, Professor Fukami, to end the meeting for today, and I will leave now. Goodbye.